What is going on, guys? How are you guys doing? Today is Sunday Night Live. We are back from CEDIA 2022. We had an incredible time. All five of us were there. Tonight, we've got some special guests. Of course, we got Ryan. So, Ryan, what's happening with you, brother?
Oh, man. I'm glad to be home.
So,
I just got home.
Ryan was working with Mad VR, and he'll share some details about kind of the post that they had set up and what was going on at his section. Up at the top right, we have Ike, ZHT Tech. Ike, what's going on, man?
Good. I literally had to drag myself up. I've been taking a long nap. So.
Yep, nap. Absolutely. It's been a long 3 or 4 days for us, so we'll share all about that. Down at the bottom left, we got Brad from Home Theater Gamer. Brad, good to have you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I feel like I've just spent the last week with you, and then like we just caught like basically almost like a red-eye flight this morning at like we were at the airport at like what 4 a.m.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be interesting if you said that and then Michael said, "I haven't seen you in a week"?
Oh no.
I might need to see someone about that then.
We had lots and lots and lots of late nights. I mean, we're talking 3:30 in the morning for me editing, 2:30 several nights, getting up at 6 a.m. And then we flew back this morning, me and Brad from Dallas we got up at 2 and we had to catch our flight. It left at 6 a.m. So definitely was a long day for us, long 3 days, and then taking some naps. Then down at the bottom right, we got Jordan from Haterade Cowboy Cinema. Jordan, how are you doing, sir?
Doing pretty good, man. Like you guys, I'm tired. I drove for about 3.5 hours, both ways, came home, immediately started editing, and I was like, I got to get this stuff out while it's still hot. So
nice.
Get some rest, but yeah, I got to go back. I got to go to work tomorrow. I was off all week, so that's a bummer.
Super cool. Jordan, you have been cranking out some content. All four of us were there. I guess 5 of us were there at CEDIA. So Brad is making some content on his channel. Brad has a channel called Home Theater Gamer. He's doing a lot of behind the scenes. He did do some interviews with some brands, so definitely check him out. Jordan has already been cranking out shorts. He's been cranking out some interviews with different brands. So check out Haterade Cowboy Cinema. And then up at the top right, Ike, did you get your video out yet? You had one?
Not yet.
Okay. Ike has like 6 SD cards full of stuff. And he's like, what do I do now?
I got to figure out that editing, man. That editing is a nightmare for me.
Yeah. So, well, super cool. So guys, here's kind of what we're going to do. Number one, if you've got questions, and maybe we'll kind of try to keep it tied to CEDIA, maybe things that you were hoping that we had a chance to visit, different booths, but it definitely could be anything home theater related or so forth.
Yeah, I like that idea.
Leave those in the chat, but we will address those at the end of the show. Let me throw this up there if I can find it.
I am watching for questions and stuff, so don't panic if we don't answer them. I star them and then we readdress them at the end.
Yeah, so we can actually star them, and so that kind of filters those, and then we'll go to those stars, and we'll just kind of do them in the order that they were dropped. So I definitely ask those questions there. But we figure we've got several topics that we're going to be looking at regarding CEDIA. We had a blast. It was an incredible 3-day event. We even had a pre-show event for the press the day before and had a chance to check out the booth that Ryan was at. So let's do, I guess, yeah. So let's just go ahead and jump right into it. So first thing, new products. One of the benefits of CEDIA is a trade show that all these different vendors come and they set up their booth, they bring their products. But CEDIA is primarily, a lot of times, these brands will introduce these brand new products, showcase those to dealers, to custom integrators, let them know kind of what's going on so that they can service their clients and their customer base. But press get a chance to come, check those things out too, do some interviews. And so, guys, let me know, what were some new products at CEDIA that you're really excited about?
I mean, for me, it was all the new receivers from Denon.
Cool.
I'm a big Denon Marantz guy. I love being able to actually see them in person.
Yeah.
And then they had most of them set up in the booth with like the front facing out and then the rear. So you got to see the front and the back, which I thought was cool. And then the Cinema series, which I think some are coming out this year, some are coming out next year, are actually on like swivel pedestals, kind of like a Lazy Susan type thing. That you could just spin around. I thought that was really cool. I really enjoyed.
Notice that part.
No. Yeah, when I had stopped over there when I had like some me time after we did our final shoot. That was one of the first. They were all kind of like off
Man.
kilter a little bit. I was like, that's an odd
That's
design
cool.
choice. And then I was like, oh, this makes sense.
My me time consisted of arriving at a booth that I wanted to see and immediately getting paged to say, "There's 5 million people here. You need to come back."
Yeah, Ryan.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
before we left, the line was filled up. There was a
Yeah,
long
the
line.
train on. Yeah, that
We'll
was
get there.
crazy.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
somebody was
we'll
going to
talk
say
about that.
something about a product that somebody else was talking.
Oh,
Or I
go
rudely
ahead, Jordan.
interrupted them.
that was me. I was just gonna say, yeah, we're gonna talk about it a little bit later, but I've never experienced anything Marantz, but I walked past their booth and went in and was absolutely floored by those new cinema series, man. And the
They look-
Nard tokens.
They look
Man.
gorgeous.
Yeah, it was awesome.
I think my thing was the new special edition JVC.
Super cool. Now
That
they're
was-
only going to make what, 20 of those?
No. So they're making like 40 to 50, but the North
Okay.
American continent is only
Getting 25.
we're
And
getting
the US
25, and
20.
North America or United States is getting 20. If I'm going to
Gotcha.
stumble over
20,
my words a lot tonight because I'm
Sure.
very tired.
Yeah.
But I'm really
think we all
excited
are.
about that because they're increasing the price not by too much. I think it's 30,000, which I know is expensive,
Sure.
but they're going from what is it, 1 million to 1 contrast to 1.5 million to 1 contrast.
Mhm.
And they're coming out with a new firmware that they just announced, which is super exciting because they're finally fixing laser dimming, and this is not just on the special edition, this is on all of them. So I'm super excited about that. Had some questions or some talks with them about some things, and that was the one that really stood out to me, but maybe that's because I didn't really get to go to too many booths.
Right.
D-Box, I think, was another one because D-Box was there, and I found out that they are currently talking to Valencia. So anybody that has Valencia seats or is thinking about Valencia seats, I talked to D-Box, and they are working on currently, right now they're evaluating the chairs to see if they can deal with the G-forces and
Okay.
the strain on them, but they're currently working on integrating D-Box into a series of Valencia, which is super exciting. And
Yeah.
D-Box
Yeah,
was
for sure.
super pumped about it.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. I've had a chance to experience that one time at SOWK, which is SOWK. Tony, he has D-Box in his theater in his front 3 seats. And going into it, I thought it was going to be kind of hokey and pull me out of the experience. But when dialed in, man, it can really add to that immersiveness. It doesn't have to be like a crazy roller coaster. But definitely that's pretty exciting. And that's one thing that CEDIA brings out is we get to hear about these new technologies. We get to hear about these new mergers, new partnerships. And that's pretty exciting for the home theater space.
Yeah.
Just
That was
to
it for me.
Yeah, just to piggyback real quick off of Ryan. So I'm actually uploading an interview with Robert Buddy, I believe, from JVC.
Yeah.
I interviewed him, and actually I uploaded it this morning and I sent it to him, but I had to pull it and re-edit it because there's an issue with, I think it's the shutter speed or something. There's some weird banding going on the actual projector screen. So he's like, I'd rather not use that part. So I'm re-uploading it, and then I got to send it to him. But he did say that he said in the video that it's 25 that they're getting. Or I guess it's
There's
the US.
25 for North America, but the
North
United
America.
States is only getting 20. So
20.
5 are
Okay.
going to Canada.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah. And I think that would be really special for those that can afford it, because I think he talked about it being numbered also. So
Right.
somebody's going to get like 25th special edition #1.
Well,
And
and you
number
get a
2,
plaque with a DILA
You get a
chip.
plaque. Yeah.
You
Oh,
get a
like-
bomber jacket. You get.
Another thing is,
all that.
my understanding is Chris Deering will actually calibrate that.
Yeah.
So
So the normal one I think is $28,000. It's $27,999. So for an extra $2,000, you get professional calibration, you get a bomber jacket, an address DILA plaque to you, which doesn't sound like a whole lot.
it's just cool.
But it's super cool. I mean, the stuff that you can put in your theater,
Yeah.
and then it's also an extra 500,000 to 1 contrast. So I know you probably can't see that, or maybe you can't, but it's just the premise of it. It's super cool. I like that they're doing that.
If you've got money for a $25,000 projector, is it 25 you said? Oh, that's for, I'm thinking the
No, no, no.
25
I think
number.
it's
How much is it?
30,000.
28,000 for the NZ9, and then it's 30,000 for
Yeah.
the.
So if you've got $28,000 to spend on a projector, an extra 2,000 probably is nothing, you know?
And
So-
I don't remember if that room that they had, the demo room, if it had the anniversary model or if it was just the NZ9.
No, they didn't actually have the anniversary model there. They had, I talked to them, they had like a modified NZ9 with the special plaque over the top to showcase it.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have them yet. So they were mimicking it, but they don't have them yet.
Well, that was, in my limited experience with projectors, that was the best. Other than the Christie, that was an amazing, because they were upscaling.
Oh my God, the Christie.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that later.
We're talking about that.
And I think quickly with regards to the update you referred to, Ryan, I think they mentioned that it's just going to be for the newer series. So
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
think
dudes like me
Michael
with the
did ask.
NX7, I get
So
yeah,
it-
man.
You're
no,
out of luck, man.
I just don't want to get anybody's hope.
Yeah.
You know, if you have
I got-
the
Well,
older
the
models
older
that
ones
you're
don't
gonna
have
get.
laser dimming either, but they're releasing a couple different content types or not content types, but picture modes that are supposedly supposed to increase brightness.
Yeah.
From what Chris Deering said when he was calibrating the stuff there.
Yeah.
So I'm super pumped about that. And Sock asks, am I getting a 25th anniversary? No, they told me no. Since I'm a dealer, I can't have one.
That's whacked, man.
Man.
I was like, doggone it.
I've straight up asked Fred, who's the head guy for JVC here in North America, and I was like, can I get one like for my showroom? He goes, absolutely not. Those are for end users only, which to their credit, I mean, that's awesome.
Makes
that
sense.
they want these to go to the end users and they're not allowing dealers to get their hands on them, which is great.
Because the dealers could scoop them up. And
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I totally get it.
Yeah.
I got all that stuff in the video. Hopefully, once Robert checks it out, because there was about 50 people that saw it. It was only up for about an hour, but I'll re-upload that and let you guys know when it hits.
Yeah, I was also able to get a video of the press release when the lady did the press release. So I'll probably upload that to the channel too. So I think I captured the entire release and also the gaming 4K 120 testing that they did with the Xbox. That was also something that was really cool. The gameplay, the guy playing the game kind of got stuck, but it was really good to see that, man. I didn't.
So, Ike, what were they using in that room? So this was the JVC booth. So they had the NZ, I believe, the NZ9,
NZ9, and the Xbox. The Series X, I believe, and it was a test on Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
Yeah.
So, but it was really good. It was really smooth. You know, I was out there just trying to see if it had any of those jitters and, you know, if there will be any kind of frame rate drops and things like that. But I was impressed. I was like, wow.
Yeah, it was super impressive. And then I realized after we'd watched it and I was walking around by myself, I'm like, wait a minute. Assassin's Creed is only 60 FPS. So they weren't actually displaying any 120 frames per second. Yeah.
Right.
So it still looks great. Don't get me wrong. I've never seen a projector look that good on a game. Assassin's Creed Valhalla also, interestingly enough, does not have the best HDR implementation.
Okay.
So I think they partner with Ubisoft or something like that. But like other games will probably pop way more. Assassin's Creed Valhalla is typically very like murky, very kind of, you know, washed out in certain areas.
Not super colorful.
Not super colorful, and it's like by design. So
sure. They're creating a vibe. That's the cinematic look that they're going for.
Yep.
Yeah, and I believe, Ryan, weren't they running they were using a Mad VR in there as well, right? With the Kaleidoscape? No?
Oh.
In the JVC room?
No.
Okay. I know they had a
I
Kaleidoscape.
don't think so.
Nope.
Well, man,
so
that
Mad VR was in Kaleidoscape, Sony VIP, Seymour, Christie, and the Trinov booths.
Super cool. And we'll talk about each one of those rooms here in just a little bit. So any other products that you were really excited about that you had a chance to see?
SVS going the in-wall sub route.
Yeah.
I'm interested in seeing that one. That you know, I mean, we know them for their subwoofers, you know. So going the in-wall route, that's something that I'm interested in seeing.
Yeah. So those of you that are looking for an in-wall solution, something to make it really clean. Like in my case, Jessica said, "Hey, we are not putting subwoofers. I don't want to see them." I'm thinking maybe we can put some in walls, but she does. She's like, "Look, you got plenty of bass in the theater room. You don't need to put it out here." So I probably won't be able to do that. But they're dual 9-inch woofers. They have their own power amplifier that can be paired with it. And they said basically when you order it, you either have to order it with 2 because that amplifier is kind of like calibrated for that system, or you need to order 2 subwoofers and the amplifier. So you won't be able to order one subwoofer, which has 2 drivers in it, and then later on add a second one. So you kind of have to make up your mind if you're going singles or duals kind of right off the bat. So, but that's super, super interesting. So, and then they had some new versions of their speakers. So I know I've got a interview with Nick and Larry. I believe Jordan has one as well. Ike has one. So, I mean, we all tried to cover as much as we could. I actually had 10 different brands that I partnered with to cover their booth. And so that Brad was saying, Brad and mostly Ike were hanging out with me, and then Jordan hung out with us for some of that. But we were pretty much every 2 hours, we were with the brand, filming their booth, interviewing them. So it was just back to back to back to back. I had 4 on, what is that, Friday? No, Thursday. Yeah, 4 on Thursday, 4 on Friday. Then we left the campus, the expo hall. We went over to Elliston. I gotta remember how
the name that you couldn't. You had trouble getting right in the video.
Like, Elliston something and systems. I don't know.
Systems, I can't remember the middle.
Yeah, but anyway, it was a local home theater, kind of installer, custom integrator. They build and design home theaters, but they also do things like lighting and shades and all different types of things. So they have their showroom that looks like a home. So they've got a bedroom, they've got a dining room, they've got a kitchen. And so they can kind of show you, okay, this is what it would look like in a home. And then they have this really awesome home theater, just incredible sound there, beautiful decor. So I'll have a dedicated like home theater tour type video of that. And then we had a single video on, what would that have been, Saturday? And so when it closed.
Yeah.
So I was busting my butt, just running. And Brad was such a huge help. He was doing all the camera operating for that so that I could focus on the interview. But definitely each one of us are going to have some different interviews, different coverage from CEDIA. So make sure you subscribe to these guys. Excuse me. I've got links to their channels down in the description. So any other thoughts on favorite products?
So don't forget about the per listening walls.
Yeah.
So I walked over there and, I was trying to get some shorts material, and I walked past there, and it wasn't until later, and I think I watched your video, but I was looking and I was like, per listen doesn't have in-walls. What is this? And it didn't click until later. And I was like, oh, wow, they do have in-walls.
Yeah.
So that's going to be interesting because unfortunately I was kind of bummed that they didn't have a listening room, because that was like our number one room that I wanted to listen to, but I'm interested to see how they compare to their.
They're not out yet. So I do want to.
Yeah, they're coming like
they're
in.
not out yet.
What did he say? Later in October.
The next couple months.
Okay.
Or a month or two is when they're supposed to.
Two.
So I've seen them for a while, but they haven't been available quite yet.
Yeah. So we actually covered those when they flew me up to do a Per Listen Insider several months ago, probably about 6 or 8 months ago, and they showed us a prototype of that. And so these have their own back boxes. They measure super, super well. And one thing I didn't realize is that Eric, we were talking about how typically, we kind of frown on in-walls. It's like, okay, if you have to go with an in-wall, because they typically don't perform as well as a dedicated speaker, like a floor standing in a tower and a bookshelf. But Eric was saying, as far as measurement wise go, having an in-wall is one of the best types of speaker, because you don't have, oh gosh, I had to go back to the video, but basically it doesn't have the interactions maybe of the speaker cabinet or something like that. So I'm probably getting it all messed up.
I think it's probably a lesser reaction with room modes, right? Because you're broadcasting direct from the wall.
Yeah.
And the advantage that the Per Listens have with their in-walls, it's an aluminum backer box. So it's not actually like a wood or plastic or anything. So they're able to control a lot more tightly the frequency and the interactions inside of that. And the design of the speaker, and they've taken a lot of care in order to do that. So the big ones are still Dominus rated. They're still on the same level. Like their S series is still on the same, maybe not quite the same level as the S7Ts, but I'm really anxious to be able to hear them because I haven't heard them, but they look like they're really cool. Plus their mounting system is really cool. I mean, the whole thing about those speakers is just really well done and thought out.
Yeah. And so,
those,
go ahead.
Are those DIY or is it going to be installer only?
No, they're DIY.
DIY.
I mean, you can buy them. So I mean, they're already
Yeah.
pre kind of built. You
Yep.
can install them.
Yep.
Yeah. So those guys, they came out of the gate running. I mean, think
Yeah.
about it. They have like 20 or 25
Sprinting.
products. Yeah. They literally came out of the gate and they were the first brand to ever reach THX Dominus certification on, I think, like 20 products. It's crazy. All of their
Yep.
R series, no, not R series, S series. Is that correct, Ryan? The higher series. Which one is that?
S series.
Okay, so the S
I
series,
think
pretty
it's
much,
the S series.
yeah, pretty much all of those speakers and subwoofers, those were THX Dominus certified.
Yep.
And I think there's only been like one other brand since then that has, reached that certification. And so they measure
acoustics.
I'm not sure.
I was
So
talking to them and they said they were, but
okay. And so it's one of those things where they knew as a new company that they had to kind of really just prove themselves right at the beginning. And you may look at Perlis and go, well, how can they charge that much when they're a brand new company? I've seen some people comment that. Here's what you don't realize. Dan, which is one of the owners of the company, Dan has basically designed a bunch of, especially subwoofers I know of, possibly some speakers as well, that have done really, really well, but he's designed them for other brands. So he's been doing this for a long, long time. Now he just decided, hey, let's start our own speaker company and let's build our brand and let's build our products. So I'm really excited about those guys. They're incredible. I've got a video with Lars, which is their marketing guy, as well as Eric, which is one of the owners and engineers behind Perlisten and the speakers. So he goes really deep. A lot of times I'm talking to him and he's explaining. I'm going, yeah, man. Oh, man, that's awesome. And I'm going, I don't have a clue what he's talking about because he's going super, super deep. So those of you that understand about acoustics and understand about speaker engineering, I think that video would be really, really, helpful to you to know kind of what they're all about at Perlisten. So
yeah, I think Perlisten takes one of the most objective approaches to audio in the industry. I mean, the only other one that I think says they do, but I don't have much experience with them, is Ascendo. I mean, that's okay. But I don't have the experience with them. So that's still word of mouth.
Gotcha. Sure.
Perlisten, definitely.
Yeah. And Perlisten Pro, they actually have those, like all their, not all of them, but they have their measurements on their website. A lot of other companies don't post that stuff.
Nope.
They don't want to see, they don't want you to see the polar pattern. They don't want you to see those other things. They put them out in front of everybody. They're like, look, here's what we were able to accomplish with our speakers. And they've had a lot of other people that are third party that have measured them and say they measure very, very well. What's that, Jordan?
Yeah, I was going to say that's crazy because, like you mentioned earlier, they came on the gate running.
Yeah,
but they've only been out. They've only been what, 2 years?
2 years.
That's crazy because I didn't know anything about them until your video, and I was like, man, who are these guys? So I researched them, and the fact that they were able to get that certification that I had never heard of before.
You're like, who is this company? What is this Dominus certification?
Yeah,
you're like,
I had no idea that even existed.
Like,
Dominus certification.
So one thing about Dominus is if you walk around and ask people what Dominus means, nobody will tell you. So I don't really know what it means because I don't know that they're actually able to tell you the specifics of it.
Yeah, that is correct.
There is a reason for it.
That's correct.
And the only thing they really talk about is the SPL levels at a certain distance, but there's a lot more into it. Correct. And I asked Dan about it this weekend.
Distortion levels.
And he wouldn't tell me specifically what it meant.
Yeah. So, and the thing is that, and that's the same thing. I was talking with Hobie, and so when he was trying to get THX certification for the monolith subwoofers, and he was able to achieve that, but I think theirs is what the THX maybe Ultra certified, I think, because you got like Select, you got Ultra, and then you got Dominus. So I think he was hoping he would reach the Dominus, but they weren't able to get that with theirs. So like you said, they don't really tell these brands like what exactly they need to hit. So it kind of, I guess, makes it difficult for a brand, but maybe they don't want them trying to cheat the system. They're like, make the best product you can. We've got our certification and we'll tell you if it meets that standard for this size room. Because typically with each level, you've got to reach, like Ryan said, certain SPL levels, because typically those rooms get bigger. You know, a THX Select would be a certain cubic feet. Ultra would be a certain bigger cubic feet, and then Dominus would be a pretty large room. So they got to be able to do that, but it's way more than just output. So, but definitely those guys, they're super guys. They're great to get to know. So definitely check out the videos that we're going to be launching. Some of them are already live, and then some of us are still working on content for that. Cool, man. Y'all ready to move on to demo rooms?
Let's do it.
All right. So favorite demo rooms. So at CEDIA, really cool thing is several of these brands, and typically they would work in partnerships. What you have to understand, the booths at CEDIA, number one, are super expensive. I was talking with one vendor, I think this was last year, and he said to get an Ethernet drop, you know, a physical landline connection to their booth was going to be, I mean, we're talking like $10,000. I mean, it's crazy money.
Crazy.
So
For
to
us
have
to
a
get extra carpet,
okay,
like a 2 foot by 10 foot piece of carpet brought over because it was too short,
sure,
was $1,500.
What?
Oh my
So that-
And
goodness.
it's not
That's what I'm
even
saying.
permanent carpet.
Wow.
I don't know. I don't
so
know. But at that
it's-
point, you're just kind of like, well, crap.
We gotta pay
got
it.
me. I can't
gotta
do
pay it.
anything about it.
Yeah, so
it is
so
what
it can
is.
get
And you
it
still
can
got
get
kicked out. You
Tripping
still
over
got kicked out as soon as it was 3 o'clock.
So it can get super expensive, but there are several groups that had actual dedicated rooms. So imagine a big open space, big expo hall, huge ceilings. Okay. So if they were just to make 4 walls, you're not going to be able to kind of pressurize that room because all the bass is going to escape. Sound's going to be, you know, muddied because of external noise because CEDIA's got a ton of people. So they really just build a cube. I mean, they build a rectangular room. And one brand in particular, we'll talk about that. So that would have been Wednesday night, we got an invitation to attend a press only event. And those folks were Trinov, Mad VR, we had Kaleidoscape, Macintosh. You saw some of the photos that I shared. Got this big, humongous stack of just blue lights galore. Who else do we have there, Ryan? I'm missing somebody. Sonos Faber had brand new
Sonos
speakers.
and
Yeah.
Barco.
So
And then Officia Acustica did the room.
Yeah,
The
did
room design.
I think.
Yep.
so the interesting
The
well, I was
Trinov
gonna-
room wasn't like everybody else's room.
Yeah. So this is kind of interesting. I was talking with the guys. They actually designed this room overseas. I think it's like Italy, something like that, in Paris or wherever.
There was France.
Yeah, France.
Italy.
Okay.
No,
Yeah,
it was
so
Italy.
somewhere over there.
Was it Italy?
So they
Oh.
designed it. They shipped it like 6 months ago to get here and get it prepared, and then it sat like for weeks and weeks and weeks. And when did the building itself get there, Ryan?
Well, it was supposed to arrive over the weekend,
Mm-hmm.
and we were supposed to start building it on Monday morning.
So the previous weekend, like Saturday, Sunday,
Yep,
start
and we were
Monday.
supposed
Show
to-
starts on Wednesday or pre-show.
No, well, we have the pre-show and the press event on Wednesday, and it was supposed to arrive over the weekend, and we were supposed to start building either over the weekend or on Monday. And it comes up on Monday morning that the booth hasn't even left the port yet.
Yikes!
Right? It's stuck in Houston. And evidently what had ended up happening is the Port of Houston, the powers that be had decided to run a random inspection on the booth,
Mm-hmm.
and then it just stalled
Yeah.
and was stuck. So at like midday on Monday, when we're already supposed to have the floor in, the walls going up, we don't even know when we're going to get the booth. Like, we don't even know when things are going to start arriving. And it was a huge problem, right? Because we have this press event on Wednesday, and this isn't a small undertaking. Like, this booth is large. This booth, this room is like 13 feet long. It's like 20 feet wide. It has 12-foot ceilings.
Yeah.
It's all custom built in Italy by Maurizio and his team, and it seats 12 people. And we haven't started. It's supposed to take over 2 days to put this thing together.
Yeah.
Right. All the amplifiers. It's like 14,000 watts of amplification went into this room, and it wasn't there. So we had no idea. So Maurizio is on the phone trying to figure out where this thing is. We end up having to effectively bribe the union staff to allow us to stay and take a shipment late because they're not supposed to allow shipments in after 4 p.m. So we had to pay people like $300 an hour to sit around and do nothing until the booth could arrive. And luckily it arrived like at midnight on Monday night.
Right.
But after that, you know, we're doing effectively 24-hour shifts to try and get this thing built.
Yeah.
And we had just gotten it put together before the press event. Like we didn't even have time to calibrate it really before the press event. So it was a massive undertaking. And this is just part of what happens at shows. Like this,
right?
Things happen and you have to be able to deal with them. Like Ascendo they were stuck on the same boat as ours, and they didn't get their speakers until even later than us. And it was, it's just what you have to deal with. And, you know, you learn a lot about yourself when you're getting thrown in through these problems. So it all came together, and it worked itself out. We got everything put together, and things ended up getting calibrated and stuff before the show. But man, what a stressor. And that's one of the reasons why I'm so tired, because it was just nonstop. You know, I got in there at like, I don't know, 10 a.m. on Monday.
Right.
And then we were leaving really late, like after midnight, and then arriving back at 5 or 6 a.m. to continue working. And it was just nonstop. And then the show starts, and then it's nonstop. But
That's
it was
crazy.
all worth it.
That's
all worth it.
crazy, man.
Yeah, when I first walked into the you know, the expo, because that was my first time at CEDIA, I was overwhelmed. Just like, how do you even, what are the logistics behind something like this? Like, how do you plan something like this? And then you guys were telling me that the night before, like, there was no carpet, or there was carpet and it was all dirty.
Yeah.
And then in a matter of hours, it was like, boom, everything's there.
Yeah. And I told the guys,
that was surprising.
I said, by the time we get ready, this thing will be, the carpet will be vacuumed. I mean, they were literally rolling out the carpet, you know, that we're going to be walking on through in between the booths, and pretty much at the booths, those already had, the carpet, because they've already had their booth erected, but the main aisles, they were still rolling those out. And so we're like walking, Brad's talking, and man, I'm tripping over carpet.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm looking and I'm videotaping and all this stuff.
The stink eye from the people putting the carpet in. You're like, hey,
like,
dude,
we
you're
still
standing
trying
where
to
you roll this out.
We still had crates and stuff around the turn-off booth when you guys arrived, and it was just.
So I'm going to show you a photo.
Nonstop.
I'll pop this up here. So this is, and if you guys haven't, like, any photos as we're talking, definitely share those, and I can pull those up. Here we go. So this is the Macintosh Trinov Sonos Faber. It was 11.12.6. So they had 12 subwoofers in here. Absolutely ridiculous. 6 Atmos channels, 11 bed layers. There was probably 3 tiers of seating, about 13 or so chairs, 12 or 13. No, more than that, like 30. Sorry about that. Because I think there was about 7.
Bigger than that.
Yeah, so probably about 21 seats, if I remember correctly.
No. We could only fit 12. It was 3 rows of 4.
Okay. You know what? I'm thinking of another booth. There's there's
so much.
I'll be honest,
There's
3 days
booths,
was a blur. But behind here, you can see that crazy rack, man. It's got it was beautifully laid out. And what was really cool, let me put this back up again. Let me add it. There we go. So you can see around the edge, of course, you got all the monoblocks. Then you've got processing, I think, right in the middle.
Those
it's hard to
racks
see.
took forever.
I imagine
they designed it beautifully. Right in the middle row, you can see right below the top Macintosh. One of those is a Trinov processor. Mad VR, I think, is right below that.
Yep.
Then you've got the Kaleidoscape side by side. There's 2 Strato C's, and oh my goodness, it was super cool.
Without racking, just the racks.
Yeah.
No cable management or anything. Took me and David 7 hours to put together. It took forever.
It was gorgeous. All right. So if it costs $10,000 to get an Ethernet drop, I do not want to know what they had to pay to get power to make sure y'all didn't trip some breakers with all that. That's insane. And one thing that they were saying too is that pretty much we kind of tallied it all up roughly, even without the room. Okay. The room, who knows how much they spent on just the design and building the actual room. but the components, equipment, speakers, and everything. And I don't even think this includes the projector because we didn't know what projector they had.
Yeah.
We're talking at least $500,000 for.
Projector was the Nord, and it's 100 grand. Roughly.
Okay, so we're talking about a $600,000, and I don't think that included the screen either because I didn't know.
Did it include the room?
No,
No.
no,
Yeah.
that's $600,000 just in Macintosh, the Sonos Faber speakers, the Mad VR. That wasn't including seating, none of that. So we're talking
it's $1 million room
easily.
Yeah.
Easily. So it was definitely the most expensive room there. But here's the interesting thing too. There was a line from Friday morning until Thursday
morning.
So Thursday morning when the show started, all day Friday, and literally until they get on the horn and they're like, all right, guys, y'all need to leave. We're closing down. These booths need to get out of here. Thanks for coming. See ya. And then they're turning people away. They're like, guys, sorry.
No, then the other vendors
insane.
came over.
Oh,
So then we were still stuck.
Oh my goodness.
I didn't see that. That's hilarious. But there was a line of probably 40, 50 people down the stairs. It was crazy. I've got a little bit of B-roll in.
Well, I feel bad for the booth that was at the bottom of those stairs because our line was into their booth. I mean, granted, they constantly had people to talk to the whole time. I mean, I don't know who was down there, but man.
So this is a great transition to that. So the next booth, and I think some of you had a chance to experience this. So right down those stairs was Absolute Ultimate AV. So I had a chance. That was one of the brands that I partnered with. And so I've met with Nigel. So Nigel runs and owns Absolute Ultimate AV down in Sarasota, Florida. Probably about a year ago, I met Nigel, went down there, and I had a chance to
phenomenal guy
to demo. He is incredible. And Brad's got a great impression of him.
I won't do it on the stream, but yeah.
Yeah, we got to keep it clean here. But I went down to visit.
I'm just imagining.
It was crazy. He just got this really cool accent. I mean, just super nice guy, but he's so knowledgeable. So I went down and we've were able to experience the Christie Griffin AS. Okay.
Oh, man.
So that's about an $80,000. Well, not that one. That's about an $80,000 projector. Fast forward to CEDIA. At CEDIA, they brought the big boy. So this is the Christie Eclipse. Christie Eclipse is about $450,000 projector. Absolutely beautiful, gorgeous image. Interesting thing, we walk in to film, and we're getting cameras set up, and Nigel, he dims the light after we do our interview kind of part where he talks about the products that are in the room and what they're all about at Absolute Ultimate AV and what they can offer to consumers. We dim the lights. He's ready to do the demo, and he looks over and he asked Brad if he could turn. Brad was filming. He said, "I need you to turn off the LCD display." Is that right, Brad?
Yeah. He was that and the record light, the red record light. I ended up having to put my finger over that, and I told him I can dim the screen, but we are filming a video, and I need to make sure that everything is in focus.
Right.
Nothing is like clipping audio wise or video wise. That's the whole reason we're here. Yeah. Without that, I don't know if what we're going to see is going to be good. Exactly. And also there's just no way to turn the screen off unless you flip the screen around.
Sure.
So I thought that was funny. You had the tape over your blue LED on the Rode Wireless Go.
Yeah.
And they were so like the minute detail of like, this room is completely blacked out. We want you to make sure that this is the black floor of the projector.
Correct.
When I went to pick up the Mad VR that was in that room, there was gaffer's tape all over the back of it.
Yeah.
Because all the
lights back there's not even lights here. Yeah. What are you doing? Yeah. But they were shielding the lights from inside the case.
Correct.
And the Mad VR does not have a glass panel on it.
Right. Yeah.
So like they were
Yep.
covering every last piece of light in that room to showcase the black level of that projector, which was phenomenal.
Sure.
Like it was phenomenal.
Amazing.
When they shut the lights off, I put my hand in front of my face and I could not see it. So they had the room completely velvet ceiling, velvet walls. Of course, we got dark carpet, seats are dark. So there's no reflections in there. And it was kind of interesting. So we dimmed the lights and Nigel looks over and he's like, "What's that?" I'm like, "What's what?" He's like, that blue light. And I look down and it's the the two little lights on my Rode mic. And so I thought I was going to be like kind of Brad. I was just going to put my finger over it. He walks over and hands me a piece of electrical tape. Like he's prepared. He knows this is going to happen. So I put it on it. No big deal. And I kind of made a joke. I said, hey guys, I said, if you smile and, the light reflects off your teeth, he's going to put some, tape on your teeth. He's like that serious, but Nigel's a super cool dude. What speakers were in that room? Do y'all remember?
Steinway Lingdorf.
Yep.
Steinway Lindorf speakers. Yeah.
So
talk about the room. What did you experience in that room? We went through some musical demos as well as some movie demos.
I mean, that was probably my favorite demo room of the whole event. The black levels, like we're talking about, like pretty much near OLED black levels. I mean,
100%.
In a room like that, there is no competing with like. It was just amazing.
Yeah.
So and then the audio, I love their actual. They did a spatial demo with Avatar, the first Avatar movie, and it just sounded so good when because they were doing like they would turn it off, turn it on, turn it off, turn it on, and like you could hear the difference in fullness, and it wasn't like a massive difference.
Right. Wasn't night and day.
Right. But it sounded very natural, which if a lot of the up mixers that we use typically, like Dolby surround up mixer or whatever, they can sometimes make things sound a little wonky depending on the source. Not everything's created equal. This just sounded phenomenal. The speakers themselves, I mean, just everything about it. It was probably the most, I guess, out of all the rooms that I saw, the most balanced presentation in terms of like calibration and everything. I wanted to check out the Trinnov booth afterwards because I know like we were at the press event and they had mentioned that they didn't have time to really dial things in. Like Ryan said, they were under the gun trying to get all this stuff in. And I really wanted to check it out after, the couple days. I thought Saturday would be the perfect day.
Yeah.
No, man, that line was just, it wasn't happening.
Everyone thought that would be the perfect day.
And then they came, there was no perfect day.
Yeah. Just line after line.
Yeah.
And honestly, I hate to kind of shift gears, but we never really got your thoughts on the booth. We talked about what the booth was on the Trinnov, but what was your thoughts on the experience of that? Did y'all want to share a little bit about that before we move to Absolute Ultimate?
Which booth?
I didn't know we were talking about the Trinnov booth.
I don't know.
We kind of had this. Let's talk about Absolute Ultimate, and then we can come back and talk about.
Okay, I just want to make sure that if you had some thoughts on that, if that was your favorite demo room.
No, we'll come back to it.
Okay, I got you. Okay, cool.
Yeah, right, but like the Absolute Ultimate AV room. Did I say that right? Sorry, I'm tired. I can't.
No, you're good.
I can't remember. When I say balanced, I mean from bass to high to like everything. Some rooms had bass crank way too loud. Some was just like, I want a little more. Like, it impresses me in the clarity of the bass, but there's like some tactility missing.
One problem I had with all of the rooms is that, with the exception of Ascendo, with their and this is low frequency only, was that I felt like the subs in all of these rooms fell out of a cliff at like 25 hertz.
Yeah,
like it just came here and then it just died, and it was
you missed that infrasonics,
which I get it. But in everybody I talk to, and I think this is a testament to the home theater crowd and the enthusiast crowd, everybody that I talked to there was like, man, that low frequency was awesome. Like, man, there's something missing.
Yeah. Once you know.
And then people were looking at me like I was crazy. Like, just trust me, there's something missing. Ascendo had it, right? Because they had 421s, and then out front they had that 50. But I just felt like the Absolute Ultimate room was phenomenal, but it what I felt like in the Trinnov room just lacked that low frequency. Now, what I'll say about on projection was it was fantastic.
Yeah.
I really liked the Coca-Cola demo.
Yeah.
The color in that was magnificent.
Unreal.
I mean, it was amazing. What ended up happening to me, though, because we were demoing AI-controlled motion interpolation on the Mad VR, so I was staring at this all weekend, and I really liked it. Like the motion interpolation, but then from that point on, every time I went to another booth, I could see the frame rate,
kind of like jitter.
You could see every little move, and it looked like a clock hand. So that just ruined the entire experience to me. And Nigel knew, because he could look at my face, and he had been over there to look at motion interpolation, and we felt the same way. And it wasn't the fault of the projector. It was just the material. So I tried to look past that, but the projector was just amazing. I mean, there was nothing like it. I mean, it was the color, the brightness. He said it was outputting 17,000 lumens.
Yeah.
At that point, it was at about 87%.
Yeah.
It was a 0.7 gain screen, and it was just phenomenal. I mean, what they were doing. They did, I mean, it was 17,000 lumens, and they had to bring it down in the calibration, but it was just, it was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he told me that usually when they install it, they usually recommend like a 7-foot distance from where the projector is to probably, you know, where your back seat probably wants to be in your media room because of the power of the laser. You know, I was impressed. I didn't care about the audio when I walked into that room. Man. It was just the visual. I was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, the speakers were also impressive.
Given how that room was laid out, full velvet, you could tell you were walking into a video experience. Like that was what that room was designed to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. The image on that was like nothing I had ever seen before. But for me, the best demo that they had in that room at the very end was Love and Thunder. The lightning and the orange, just, man, it was just like, I don't know how else to describe it because you can't compare it to anything else, you know?
Yeah.
But I didn't feel like the audio was that, I'm kind of like Ryan, like the bass was kind of lacking in most of the rooms.
Yeah. Sock says he runs DCI P3 content at BT 2020. That little... But I really liked the saturation. But that makes sense. I'm going to have to call him out on that and see if that holds.
Yeah, that was one of those rooms where I'm watching and I'm listening and I'm just smiling, man. And my heart began to kind of beat faster. It was a weird kind of experience. Like, this is exhilarating. This is a truly phenomenal room. So I think, to me, that was my favorite room. But like you said, there wasn't like super deep bass. It was very smooth, very balanced. The Trinov room, holy cow. I mean, they've got 12 subwoofers in there, a lot of bass there. I think they were calling it a Skendo in their demo.
A Shendo.
A Shendo. So some people say a Sendo. I think it's a Shendo. But anyway, so that had a lot of LFE, you know. So
that one did. Yeah, the Hisense one sounded good. For me, my favorite one was I mentioned this earlier. I was coming back from lunch and I was upstairs and I walked past the Sound United booth. They had Marantz, the new cinema series, and they had some Bowers and Wilkins.
Yeah.
I walked past it. I was like, you know what? I think they're doing tours, or demos. Let me just go in there. That room. And I think because even though they didn't have any acoustic treatment in there, I think because it was bigger and the speakers had more separation. But oh my goodness, the dynamics, and that room was slamming. Like, that for me was my favorite. I don't know if
what were they running speaker wise in that room? Because I didn't get a chance to go in there.
So I'm uploading the video now. I think he called them Cinema CT something series, something like that. I forget the name of it, but I have to look it up. But they were Bowers and Wilkins, and he even said in the video,
okay, like, that's what I didn't know. Okay.
Yeah, he was like, this isn't our top of the line speaker. You know, he's like, a lot of people at these shows, they want to try to blow everybody away. He's like, we're not trying to do that. We want to show you the power. But one thing that was cool is that the new cinema series amplifiers and the receivers have directional bass. So if you have 4 subwoofers, you can assign 1 subwoofer to your left, your LCR, your left, then your surround, and then your height speaker. And you can do that in all 4 corners. And it sounded interesting. It sounded amazing. That was my favorite room by far.
So does that kind of make that, let's say, for instance, if you put those on your front speaker, or not maybe your front speaker, let's say your Atmos, does that kind of make that a full range speaker at that point? Because it's playing low frequencies? Is that what they're trying to do?
Assignable LFE is what it
basically
comes down to, because I know LFE is supposed to be non-directional, right? It's supposed to be unlocatable, but we as humans, when we're in a room, can locate it, right? So it can be advantageous to put subs in different positions in the room that can provide low frequency for that location, right? Because it'll make it sound like and feel like it's coming from that direction, thereby increasing your level of immersion. So it's just allows you to assign certain channels to certain LFE channels as well. It's part of DIRAC.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And the first demo that they did was Jurassic World Dominion, where Bryce Dallas Howard, she's like stuck in a tree, and I don't remember the name of the dinosaur, but you hear the dinosaur, and it's got like this weird kind of like clicking noises, and you hear it all around the room. And then the dinosaur, when she's in the water, the dinosaur screams over the water. It was just, I don't know if you guys got to check it out, but I
didn't.
Like, man, I'm still on Marantz, and this is my first time hearing them.
Yeah. Did anybody get a chance to hear the JBL synthesis? I think they had 2 demo rooms.
I'm back, but I didn't get a chance. You guys listened to it, right?
I had a chance to. We had a tour of their booth, so we were kind of just talking more about their products, and I went later on and just got a quick pan of both of those rooms, but that was literally probably an hour before anybody was there on like day 2 or day 3.
They really need to give a full day for the press and for the other vendors.
Honestly, that'd be
it's hard. Yeah. And you know, by the time we got done shooting, I was like, I was in work mode. Like basically, I mean, Michael was too for the first 2 days, and then the last day was, like I mentioned earlier, it was kind of like
our time. Yeah.
Right. Like we had one sponsored shoot, and then after that, it's like we do what we want. I was like, okay, well, what booth do I want to check out?
12 to 3. Yeah.
I had a limited amount of time. What demos do I want to see?
Yeah.
Who do I want to talk to? Who do I want to get on video? How much video do I want to capture? Because I'm trying to think about like, okay, what kind of behind the scenes stuff can I shoot? It was just it is very overwhelming. And like Ryan said, having a day just for press.
Yeah, that'd be
to
awesome.
go in would be super awesome. I don't know if it'll ever happen because I imagine the cost.
That's a lot of money wasted.
Yeah. Exactly.
Not that press isn't worth it, but restricting it to just press could be.
Yeah.
I do wish
maybe they do it 4
like
days instead of 3 days. That'd
their
be awesome.
setup day where certain people could sign up to do press things more over that day, and maybe they can. But it was just, I wish there was more time.
Sure.
Maybe I wish there was more time because I feel like I didn't have any time, but that was because of the booth I was at.
Right. Yeah. Sure. You were running the booth and helping to demo the Mad VR on they had a TV there like they did at Audio Vice Live, and you could show different aspects of what it has to offer. So yeah, you were kind of like tied to that booth, man.
Oh my God.
You didn't. I don't think I saw you move much from where you guys were.
I would try and get away, and I would tell the guys like, hey, I'm going to go over here and check this out because I got to talk to X, Y, or Z person. And then I'd get to that booth, and then I would get a text like, we need you back. Like, we're overrun. We have to have you back. So it was just, I would try, and then we could never do it because, and I told people, because I'm part of a buying group, right, for my own business, and I told the guys, like, we are the booth. And I think he came up and told me afterwards, like, dude, we didn't believe you. Like, everybody says that. But then he said it with a smile. He's like, you were the booth. I mean,
I think it really helped that y'all had a boatload of blue LED on the front.
Absolutely.
It was like the biggest sign at the show. And plus,
that
was the stairs that lead up to the food court.
It was perfect.
Everybody's got to go get lunch. And so everybody sees it. And even when I mentioned the Christie Eclipse, they're like, where's that? I'm like, oh, it's down here at Absolute Ultimate AV. They're like, where's that? So no, they're like, they're glued to the blue, and
like
they didn't even see that. Yeah.
It's like a Batman sign.
100%
for
location,
AV nerds.
Location. That was it, man. Y'all picked a prime location.
All right, guys. I need one of you guys to make like a Batman signal, but have it be the Macintosh logo that we can shine up at the clouds.
Pretty cool.
Just attract the fellow AV nerds.
Yeah, it was cool though. But but definitely we had so many opportunities to hear some really great demos from, some different brands. I wasn't real impressed like with the audio quality of the JVC room. They had partnered, I think, with, was it Denon speakers or DefTech speakers? Maybe.
I think it was.
And they didn't.
I could be wrong.
They didn't even have it loud. I mean, it was just like it was just there, just to be there. They did a couple demos, but it was really just showcasing. Okay, here's the picture image quality of this, so that you're not sitting in silence. So they just chose not to do a theater experience. They just wanted you to see visually, man, this thing is beautiful and gorgeous, and it was. So
I do want to mention that I really did like the what is it, the Quantum Media Systems room.
Yeah,
where we saw the Avatar, the new Avatar trailer. I really would have liked to have seen and heard more.
Yeah.
Even though that trailer was cool, it's like it's a trailer. I need a little more. Give me a little more. But like the line array set up in that room, was it a line array? Right? Like it was.
I think
I can't remember.
line arrays. Yeah,
I don't know if a line source, a line array, one of the,
Line, so you one of the
line
two. But
source.
like the center channel alone was the width of the whole screen, and that was in the seating area, which was like their big thing.
yeah.
And it
I think
looked
it
and
was like
sounded amazing.
11 speakers.
And that was
They
a
have like
that was
11
a
speakers across.
and that was a massive LED, not LED, just a massive display wall. How do you say that?
Yeah, I
Video
don't.
wall?
I think it was a display wall. I know they were really keen on mentioning that it was like one of the few
Yeah.
full DCI-P3 capable systems, I guess. And that the Avatar trailer they showed was DCI-P3 as well, which you don't find typically in the home entertainment space, at least. You know, they were doing like stuff like 444 chroma, all that stuff, which again, most things are 422 or.
So that was in a totally separate
Yeah.
room than the actual expo hall. You had to lead, kind of like where registration was, go down the
We got a
hallway.
little
We
exercise
totally got
trying to
lost.
find that room, didn't we?
Totally got lost there.
Yeah.
But it was on the Omni Causeway, and I think there were several brands down there. So we just had a chance to visit that one. It's a big, kind of like not ballroom, but just a big conference room, beautiful high ceilings, kind of decored very nice. And that room was tricked out, man.
Yeah,
Right,
Michael,
that image was incredible. Okay, cool. So Gotham, appreciate you, brother. $2 super chat. Eclipse versus the video wall. Oh wow, what had the best picture quality? So honestly, two totally different rooms, two totally different sources, a lot of differences there, and then a different time frame. I think there was a day, probably at least a day apart. I love the Eclipse, the best projector I think I've ever seen. I mean, it's bar none, absolutely drop dead gorgeous.
Pay for it though.
Yeah, I mean, $450,000.
Yeah,
but I also said the same thing when I saw the Griffin AS, which is about $80,000, which again, still big money. But the video wall, stunning, super stunning. They had this still image even just when we walked in, and I went, "Holy crap!" This thing was how big? 16 feet wide.
Which one?
So this was the quantum room.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in the quantum room, they had this big video wall. It was.
I will say
gorgeous.
that video walls are more versatile. Like you can, they're self-emitting, so you're going to be able to put them in brighter rooms.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about an enormous projector, right?
Correct.
I think if you're in a dedicated theater space, Eclipse all day.
Yeah.
No question.
Yeah.
But outside of that or versatility, video wall every time.
Yeah. I mean, a video wall, I feel like will best most projectors in brightness alone, but like it won't match like it. Again, we didn't really see that like any of the video walls with like in a blacked out room. So judging the black levels on those is kind of hard, right? Like the Sony looked cool, like their 220-inch crystal LED was super cool, and like it's adaptable.
It's in the middle of the room, or the middle of the whole trade show.
So there's bright lights everywhere, but and it was super bright, super vibrant. They put up Gran Turismo, and that looks super cool. But again, how are you going to judge black levels in a brightly lit room like that? It's just impossible.
One thing I did notice about the video wall is I got probably about a foot from it.
I know what you're going to say.
And I could literally feel the heat coming off of it.
Yeah, it was really hot.
Yes.
The Christie had its own air conditioning unit.
That's true.
Okay.
That's true. It had it. You need its own HVAC system.
All right. So, but think about this though. At least the Christie is pulling that out of the room versus if you got a wall display, that's putting that heat into the room. You can't get rid of that.
Yeah, but the room is probably not going to be less
discussion.
than 20 feet.
Yeah.
If you have that in a room, it's going to be a really big room. So
my Epson 5040.
And it may not be a big deal if you crank down your AC, but just know that it definitely. I noticed the heat from it. I was like, oh, interesting. So but they look beautiful. So definitely. So that might be definitely. You know, I've had people in my comments say, "Hey, that's the way of the future. This is where we're going." It's just not going to be anytime soon. I mean, they didn't. Right. I even asked the Sony guys, like, what are we talking price wise here? And he's like, "It's a custom thing. Can't really say." I mean, there's power requirements. Depending on what size you go to. So there's not like, okay, if you do this dimensions, it's going to be this price kind of thing. It's kind of like building a custom home. So.
All right,
Gotham
dropped another super chat.
$5 super chat. Appreciate it, brother. He says, which
Thank you.
video wall did you like the best? Quantum, Sony, Samsung. I did not see the Samsung. I had a chance to see the Sony. Again, 2 different rooms. The Sony was out as a 220-inch video wall, and it's in the middle of the expo. So you've got all these massive lights. I mean, lights are full on that thing.
Yeah.
In the Quantum room, they actually could make it. I think they turned off the lights, didn't they?
And
They did. I
got
think so.
it.
Yeah, they did. I think it's also worth mentioning that in the Quantum room, they were actually doing a 2:37 aspect ratio. Whereas the Sony display was, I think it was 16:9.
Yeah.
So
I like
they're 185 or
A lot of the guys
178.
here
sorry.
are going to say that you're going to need a direct A/B comparison to be
Right.
able to give an
Yeah, it'd be
objective-
super hard.
I mean, and this is all highly subjective, right?
Correct.
Like we're looking at this stuff in a bright showroom. It's akin to going to something like a Best Buy and trying to pick out the best TV when everything's set on vivid mode.
Right.
Right. We can't really judge the picture quality based on these, like what we see with our eyes and merits alone. If they were side by side in the same room, same lighting conditions, everything, same, dialed in, calibrated, then we can go, okay, this one definitely has, looks better, has brighter highlights.
I preferred the Quantum, but again, we're in a dedicated, it's really like a dedicated theater room. They were able to turn off the lights, fully light controlled room. Even with the lights on, they were probably like dim. They weren't like crazy bright, like, this light that I'm looking at up here. It was just creating the ambiance so you could see and walk around, but it was beautiful. Like super, super. So
I think
like
the major difference I saw was with the Sony, when the image really dimmed or there was no image, you could see like the LEDs,
the lines, the
grid.
separation,
or the line.
As soon as you kind of
But
step
once
back,
the image came up, you didn't see anything.
That is true.
With the other one, with the Quantum, I did go close enough, and I didn't really.
You didn't see it.
It's probably
as much.
obviously there, but it wasn't as vivid as with the Sony. With a few feet away, you could see it. But once the image came
dark
up, there was
scenes,
nothing.
But even then, so John says that my local home theater store has multiple rooms with multiple lighting scenarios just for that. Well, that's true, but that still leads into subjectivity. Unless you can put the displays right next to each other, our memory isn't good enough to be able to take the subjectivity out of the equation, right? Yeah. You're going to walk into one room and see something, and you're going to walk into another room, and even if you're seeing the same thing, you may be focusing on 2 totally different things, and you may say, I've never seen that before, and that leads to subjectivity, but you're only seeing it a lot of times because you're focusing in a different way. No. We do this in audio all the time, and it can lead to very biased outcomes. So it's very important that if you want to be as objective as possible with audio and video, that you do as fast of switching as you can in the same room, in the same conditions, because it removes as much of that subjectivity as bias as possible.
Sure. Yeah. That's the whole reason why we created M-Wave. We want to give you some opportunities to put things side by side, be able to do fast switching, or in video, be able to see them side by side so that you take as much of that subjectivity out of the equation.
Yeah. I'm not saying you're wrong, John. It's just something to consider in my opinion. So by no means is anyone wrong. It's just I personally get concerned around that stuff because I know I have an issue with it.
Yeah.
Super cool. Trade show is absolutely horrible environment to try to do anything.
I don't know, man. Sony did a phenomenal job. Did you guys make it to the Sony room?
We did.
The VIP room?
We saw all 3. The first 2, they were okay sound-wise. Went to the third one, like, all right. Only thing I didn't like, they had that screen.
It was way too high.
Way too high.
Do you not that was the only downside.
Now you're talking about the Sony VIP room.
Yes. That's
with the 2 screens?
No.
Oh, you didn't go to this room. Yeah.
It was a VIP room.
Only
we
room.
went into... I'm trying to remember. It was I think it was Wisdom Audio. Is that right?
There was no audio in this room.
Okay, we didn't get in the VIP room.
Sony
VIPs, man.
Stole the M-Wave idea.
Okay, yeah, they told me they were doing it, but I didn't see it.
They did full racks of JVC against full racks of Sony and Epson, and put them head to head. So Andrew, the balls on this man are enormous. I mean, doing it for Sony. I mean, just think about that.
Yeah,
he needs a wheelbarrow. I mean, he works for Sony, but he's got the confidence to be able to say, we're going to do this.
All right.
Yeah.
So you need something like that, and Sony did it, but it was invite only, so a lot of people didn't see it.
Yeah.
But it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool.
Very, very cool. All right, well, let's switch over to the last topic, and then we'll go to the chat and answer some questions. Were there any things during the show that kind of surprised you? This could be good or bad, maybe things that you thought you were going to enjoy or thought you were going to see, or maybe some things that didn't turn out the way that you thought. So
I'm
give me your
really
thoughts on that.
surprised at how interested adult dating sites are in CEDIA conversations.
Oh, golly.
Right.
Wow.
Seriously,
we didn't have any of
blocking
those.
them. They keep coming back.
Oh, funny. funny.
So
Yeah,
like,
we get spam over here every once
We
in a while
do.
in the chat. I'm glad
Yeah.
Ryan's looking at it because I'm not.
I'm trying to stay on top of
crazy.
it.
You're
Dude,
right.
it'd be a,
I think for me, like having never been to a trade show of any kind like this before, right? The approachability of all the different people, all the different brands is and was like very, very like informal to me, at least. Like, I mean, yeah, there are going to be some brands and stuff that do like kind of sales pitchy things, and they see you have an editorial press badge, and immediately they go into like, oh, I don't know what he's going to use from this. But a lot of the people were just wanting to have a conversation and not necessarily like sell me on anything, which I thought was really cool. I had questions and I could, I went over to JVC on my free time and I was talking to Patrick about stuff, and he very great guy. And he wasn't, maybe I wasn't communicating effectively what I was trying to ask. And I don't know that he was familiar with what variable refresh rate was. And that was kind of something that slightly disappointed me with their presentation, or not their presentation, but I found out from another person there that he kind of brought me over to that knew more about it, that none of the projectors support VRR.
No.
And honestly, most projectors don't. And that, as a gamer, that's a big deal to me. HDMI 2.1 is kind of being pushed on us with 8K. Ryan, you look like you're going to say something.
Because I think the only one's in Optima.
Yeah, there's an Acer as well, but that's like a lower.
They actually may be based on the same platform.
That could be. It could be. And most of the projectors that I've looked into are like, they drop down to 1080p to do it. And that's not.
But I think they're also trying to market the gaming aspect of the projector, right? That's kind of what.
Right. And so if you're going to
kind
market
of disappointed me, like.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
you're
So
going to
like,
market it as a gaming projector and tout the 4K 120. You should at least have VR on it.
Exactly. And that's something that like disappointed me overall, but just the approachability of everyone. I mean, I even like you guys, you and Ryan, Michael and Ryan were shooting something about the Mad VR, and I was talking to Rick about the gaming stuff because Mad VR does introduce some latency, and that's big in gaming. And I just said, hey man, look, I totally understand that. That's how Mad VR works. It's magic. But at the same time, there's a whole untapped potential there because HDR in gaming is a mess, an absolute mess. Movies are less so. But HDR in gaming, there's so many different settings. Some things work, some things don't. So many different, some games have a max output of 2000 nits, while another game might have 10,000 nits. So there's a lot of HDR tone mapping issues and stuff. And I was just talking to him about that stuff because that's one of the biggest things about Mad VR is their HDR tone mapping, highlight recovery, all that stuff. Look at him. No, I'm really interested in that because I think most people don't know how to set up HDR correctly in these games because they don't know.
I'm just going to take that a step further, and most people, including companies, don't know how to deal with tone mapping in general.
Exactly, and that's
it's
why
tough. It's very hard.
It is, and I think if you could take the guesswork out of it and say, look, this device will ensure that you're getting the optimum experience. That's basically what I was telling him. And he's like, maybe down the road we look into maybe adding a game mode. I don't know when.
Is this Patrick still?
No, this is Rick.
No, this is Rick. He was asking about Mad VR.
I didn't realize we had the transition.
Hey, Mike,
I'm sorry.
Ryan, can you bump up your mic a little bit?
I did. Is
okay.
it not?
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, you're still
I did
low.
bump it up.
Maybe I'm too loud. Am I too loud?
No, you're good.
I think it's just me.
Yeah.
And guys, if you guys ever notice something, feel free to
point
let
it
us
out.
know. I turned it up again. Is that better? Okay.
But yeah, I mean that's kind of where I was going with that and talking to Rick, but he was like very open to just kind of discussing stuff with me. And most of these brands are like Lars from Perlisten.
Yeah.
Like I stopped by his booth multiple times. I stopped by the guys from SVS. I know the guys from SVS for a couple years, so it was kind of like, oh hey, what's going on?
He came to me afterwards, is like, God, this Brad guy's come by like 4 times. I can't believe
Oh
that he's doing this
crap!
stuff.
Who's that, Rick or Lars? Which one?
Both.
No,
I'm just
both of it.
kidding.
No, it was just cool because I'm like, I have questions, or like I want to just kind of chit chat, and maybe, you know, if one day, you know, gaming features come to Mad VR because of something I mentioned in 2022, cool. Like
the hard part about that is dealing with lip sync, right? That's the hard part. We may be able to, as processing power gets better, right?
And that's
as
what I'm
we
thinking.
get more and more hardware capable of the processing power needed, we may be able to step that down to a point that's at least
like negligible,
more forgivable for not competitive gaming, but single player gaming, which I think is where this matters more. Like taking the new God of War or Assassin's Creed and all of that stuff, where you don't have to worry about millisecond decisions and you dying.
Right.
And you kind of do, but it's not
when
you fighting other
those
people.
Valkyries, man, you better have split decisions.
Fair. But I mean, right now, Mad VR's delay is approximately 220 milliseconds, which isn't very good for gaming. We'll flat out admit that.
Sure.
But I was very surprised, and Brad, to echo this, that a lot of the vendors that I talked to were the ones that I could. It was more conversational instead of a sales pitch, which
these
was
are
great.
real dudes. Yep.
Yeah.
Especially since CEDIA hadn't really happened in this capacity. So I was expecting people to just come out like guns blazing.
Yeah.
You will sell my product. My product is amazing.
Yeah.
But it was much more of a conversation and down to earth, and it was great. I really enjoyed that aspect of it.
Yeah. And that's really what we tried to highlight in the videos that we did. We had 10 different brands that we partnered with. And I really just, you know, that's really kind of the way it came out. And I even encouraged them. I said, I just want to have a conversation. You know, I mean, my audience doesn't need a sales pitch. They just want to know, they want to hear your heart. What makes your company, you know, like what is your passion? What is your heartbeat? And what makes you unique? And what can you bring to the table? And so it was that conversation, and it's super cool to me too, as well.
Total change of the surprise for me was that our booth was right next to Kohler.
Now, who is Kohler? I'm not familiar with that.
The water
shower.
And shower.
They had a little square thing with like a
It was
shower head
so
spraying
weird.
water in it. And
I thought there was like subwoofers in the shower. Maybe you go in there.
I told Michael, I said there better be subwoofers in those showers, man.
It was so weird. And then right behind us, past L Acoustics, was smoke detectors.
Yeah,
and it was just. I guess I get it from the dealer installer.
They ran out of space or something up there.
Maybe.
I mean, literally, like down, because most of that stuff was down on the other end, you know. So
they saw all the Macintosh, so they had to bring the smoke detectors close.
Right. Yeah, just to kind of piggyback off of Ryan and Brad, like I've always heard that there's a negative connotation about expos and trade shows and stuff like that. And for me, the only thing that I had to compare it to was the Emotiva's audio roundup. And I thought that was great. But this experience, everyone was super nice. I sent out some emails to a couple of companies. Some replied and said, yeah, sure, we'd love to get an interview. And then some I just walked up to and I was like, hey, do you have time for an interview? And they were like, yeah, let me check with so-and-so. But then we'd come back and we'd end up talking for 20, 30 minutes afterwards. And it was just an awesome experience. Like, Ryan was saying, I didn't get anybody. I mean, I'm not a dealer, but I didn't get the impression that they were just trying to sell everyone. And maybe because it hadn't been around for 2 years, but they clearly put the right people, in place to mingle with and talk to and just to get information.
Yeah. Ike and I actually had a 20 minute conversation with Amanda from Kaleidoscape. And it was just all about a bunch of different stuff. Yeah. And I never got the impression that she was trying to sell me on their product. She was like, hey, look, like, I was agreeing with her on stuff. But like, okay, yeah, it was just super cool and super like just dynamic. I was talking to a person, not just a robot reading from a script that's telling me, okay, here are the bullet point tech specs of this thing. This is why you should like it. And that's what you should tell your audience,
Yeah, I think that was my best outtake, first time at CEDIA, just getting a chance to see everyone, both people you watch on YouTube and also just a lot of people that lead a lot of the companies. Like I had a chat with Chris. I think it's Chris Moore. You know, I was able to have a 20-30 minutes chat with a Simon from OSD, you know, Nick from SVS. So I was really impressed with just being able to see all these guys, get to talk to them. Jordan and I met the primary engineer behind their Denon A1H.
The A1H, yeah.
Very honest guy. You would have just walked past him, you know, on the CEDIA floor without knowing that this guy is the brain behind something like that. So I think that was most, you know, while the rest of us, you know, sit at home and argue on forums and, you know, on YouTube chats, this guy is, you know, it was just good to see the human side and see that some of them are just, you know, just like us, you know, just
exactly.
And we even got to see the same thing even with like owners of these companies, you know, talking with Rick, talking with Chris Seymour, talking with the owner of Trinov, all these guys, you know, they're there because they're passionate about the industry. They're passionate about music. They're passionate about movies and trying to reproduce that experience for the end user. And so, you know, when you get them behind it and they're sharing that passion and they're trying to be visionary and coming up with products that really meet the consumer's, you know, desires and needs, it's just really, really cool. But they're down to earth. They're regular people just like you and me. They just happen to have started a business and they're doing very well and they're very successful with that. So, but definitely was super cool. It was a great experience. This is my first year at CEDIA. Ike's first year at CEDIA. Ryan, had been to CEDIA before?
Nope.
Okay, so your first year. So pretty much all of us.
Yeah.
So, but definitely it was a whirlwind. I know for me, a lot of it was, you know, I mean, I'm in like work mode, even on our time off. So we finished with SVS on Saturday at noon. And then we're filming content for Brad, and then we're helping Ike, and then Rick grabs me and said, "Hey man, we had some audio issues. Could you shoot a video for us and redo that?" So then I was working with them, and then I run over to OSD, and Ike's filming there, and he's like, "Hey man, can you like grab my camera and follow me around?" I went, "Sure, man." So we're just helping each other, and I love that about us. We look at this as a community, you know, and got a great opportunity to hang out with Jordan. And so I wanted to invite him on to, you know, the conversation today, and
appreciate it.
Just seeing everybody work together. That to me is what I get excited about, is the relationships that are built. And that's one thing that I have always enjoyed. This whole journey with YouTube over the past 4 years has been amazing to me. I love the gear. I'm a big kid. I get excited about cool toys. But to me, the most valuable thing is what we're doing right here. It's relationships, the people that we interact with, the brands that we get to know. We get to know these people on a personal level. Ike sat down with Nick and they talked about Nick's home theater that he's building.
Yeah.
You know, that's super cool.
That was really cool. You know, like he really opened up and we just talked about it. And, you know, the interview, which I would, whenever I get to edit it, I'll upload it to the channel. But, you know, I thought we were going to talk about OSD, which SVS, which, I mean, we covered what they brought to the show, but you know, we kind of segued, and I'm going through my home theater build journey, and he's also going through the same. So it was just good to see that, you know, people just want the same thing that we want, even when we think that they have it already. So it was good.
Just to add to that, it's really, really cool to be walking around the show floor and then have someone come up to me and go, "Brad, I love your videos, man. Like your mini DSP tutorials like made my subs sound amazing." And that's why I do it. Like I really you know, making videos is fun. It's hard work, but it's super fun. But having that connection with people in face to face, not you know, a YouTube comment is great, but when someone tells you that to your face, it means just so much more. So if anybody watching came up to me and said, "Hey, just, you know, I love your videos," just know that I'm eternally grateful. Thank you so much.
100%.
Yeah, that me and Brad were talking about. I remember Brad he was like, "Man, this, you know, one of my subscribers just came up to me and started talking to me." And then I was talking with Ike, and the same guy unknowingly came up to me. He was like, "Jordan," he's like, "Man, I love your videos on, you know, HG Fury." And Brad was like, "That's the same guy." And so then
Gerald,
Gerald LaPlante. I've got his picture right here. Michael came up and he's like, "Hey, I've wanted to meet you too." And then Chris, that home theater dude, that was like, just watching that was really cool. And to know that, like you said, you see the comments and you get some bad ones every now and then, but for somebody to actually come up to you and be able to just talk to them and show how much they appreciate your content and the work that we put into it was really awesome.
Yeah.
I had a guy come up to me
but that was a challenge, right? Working with Youth Man, he got stopped every 45 seconds. At some point, Brad and I were like, you know what?
let's just leave.
They just left me. I'm
We're
like,
going to
I'm
the food
texting them. I'm
court.
like, where'd you guys run to? They're like, you were busy, man.
They just
Like,
left you to be eaten by yourself.
Yeah, it was all good. But I like you said, I love the interaction. I no matter where I get to on the size of my channel, I mean, we're 200, less than 200 away from 100,000. So I'm gonna throw a little plug. I don't think I mentioned it earlier. We're about to end this road to 100,000. So as soon as we hit that, I'm going to go ahead and draw the winners. We've been doing this for a couple months, promoting this. We've got over $33,000 in giveaways. So you can head over to youthmanreviews.com. If you're joining us from any of these guys' channels and aren't familiar with the giveaway, I partner with a bunch of different brands. Youthmanreviews.com, road to 100,000. You can apply or submit or what do you call it? Enter to win each one that you want. So if you don't, I know. Hey, trust me, dude.
That's how tired we are.
We're still kind of running on some sleep deprivation right here.
Yeah.
So, but definitely head over there. I'd love for you guys to win some really cool stuff. A lot of these brands that we talked about, they've partnered with us. We've got some really awesome products over there. Subwoofers, JTR speaker or subwoofers. We got Mad VR. I think I talked to Rick. He was going, no, he did not. Ryan was like, what? No,
what?
Nobody's hooking up a Mad VR. Christy Grip. No, not that either.
That would be cool.
There's some awesome giveaways over there. So definitely check that out. But I'm super grateful. Like Brad said, to you guys that are watching, those of you that like our videos, comment, share the videos. And then when we get a chance to meet you in person at a trade show or an event like M-Wave, we truly, truly value those friendships and that relationship because you're a people. And that's one thing that I try to convey in my videos is that when I'm sharing something, I want to talk to just one person. I know there's a multitude of people out there, but really I want to talk to you and kind of, make that personal connection as best we can over a camera. So, but I'm super grateful for each one of these guys that make content. It's a ton of work, when we make a video, sometimes it's a couple of days, sometimes it's 8 hours or 5 hours. Each one varies, but there's a lot of work that comes into play. There's a lot of camera equipment. I mean, I took probably $10,000, over $10,000 in camera equipment, lighting equipment, backup batteries and all kinds of stuff. And, but we do that because we're passionate about the hobby. We're passionate about music, passionate about movies, and we want to try to provide content that you guys will enjoy and will help you in your home theater and your 2-channel setup.
Well, I remember even where we started where you started in December when I first met you, and just seeing where you've progressed since then and what you've helped the industry and the space do. I mean, it's been amazing to watch happen. So I applaud you for everything that you've done. And guys, it's that 100,000. I mean, that's a big deal. So
I'm excited.
I think it's really cool, and I'm really excited to see it. And here's to another 100,000 going. Forward.
And I love these guys. I do my best, man. I don't look, like I said earlier, I don't think this is a competition. I'm looking at these gentlemen as friends and comrades in this hobby. And so I want to propel these guys forward, help them out, do anything I can from a content creator and as a personal friend.
I had a couple brands come up and talk to me, and they said that, we wouldn't be here without the things that Youthman has done in the industry and in the space. That's super cool. I appreciate that. Those are coming from brands. So that says a lot about what a critical part of the industry you've become. I think it's really cool to see. So I just hats off to you. I mean, thanks, I can't take my hat off.
Yeah, and just watching you watching Youthman work behind the scene, that's a different conversation in its own. Like, I was so impressed. I wasn't even sure if I want to continue on this YouTube journey.
He doesn't stop.
Do I have to put in this type of work? Like, even after taking the A roll and the B roll, he grabs the camera from at some point, Brad was like, "You just go shoot the B-rolls."
Yeah.
you know. And at the same time, he was taking time just to teach me. He's like, "Ike, come on, let me show you. You got to take the camera and put it at this angle so that you can get that book." I was like, wow, it was impressive, the amount of work you put in just to get a 10-15-minute video out there. And that's something that I got to experience that a lot of, people may not get the chance to, but you are a hard worker and
Thanks,
you
man.
might need to, take some time to get some rest. Just
I
a
did. I
recommendation.
got a 2-hour nap today. And
There you
then
go.
We got ready for this live
That
stream.
was solid.
You were gonna sleep on the plane. You ended up editing a video most of the
That's
time.
what he always says. Yeah, I'm gonna go to
Yeah,
bed
I'm gonna
early,
sleep-
and
I'm
then
gonna
he's up
sleep, and
like
then he did- yeah.
4 a.m. editing
Yep.
videos. Yeah,
Yep.
that's how we do it.
I think he was texting me. What was it? Thursday and Friday night, and it was late because I was working on a video, and I think I finally fell asleep, and I woke up, and I'm like, man, he was up to like 2 a.m. Like,
Yeah.
One night was 1:30. One night
3
was
o'clock.
2:30. Yeah, one night was 1:30. One night was 2:30. One night was 3:30. And all 3 days we got up at 6 a.m.
Yeah.
And then the last
Yeah.
day heading home, we stayed up to about 12:30. Now that was just hanging out, talking, me and Brad. And we finished at 12:30 and then got up at 2 to get on a plane and be on a flight back to Florida at 6. So, but definitely, man, I have never been scared of work. I've never been scared of hustling. And the thing is like I told these guys, you can do anything if there's an end in sight. And for us, okay, we're going to bust our butts for 3 or 4 days, and then we can go home and we can nap and we can sleep and
Relax and
go chill or whatever, watch some movies or Netflix or whatever. But right now is go time. I've got commitments for these brands, and we want to make sure that we do that. We got up super early. He had to drive his kids to school, and so I super appreciate you, man, because you are our ride, man. You're my chauffeur, even though you drive like a madman, running red lights and all this stuff, and craziness, and taking us by ice.
Now you just made that public. You just made that public.
they've made it public.
But
that was supposed to be a secret.
but I appreciate you, bro, because he said, Michael, he said, I'd love to go to CEDIA. And if there's a way I could go to CEDIA, dude, I'll help you with your bags. I'll help you with camera gear, whatever you need from me. I'll take you to and from the airport. To and from the event and the hotel. So he was so gracious. He'd take us out to dinner, not like, but he would take us and drive us. And so super grateful for you, man. Opening up your home. We actually did a home theater tour at your house. So I'll be sharing that on the channel as well. But the reality is I knew that I had obligations to these brands. And so sometimes we'd schedule them at 8 a.m. And so instead of, possibly running late, apparently Dallas is notorious for bad drivers.
Yeah.
And lots of accidents.
As in general.
And we were like 45 minutes away where we were staying. And as a result, so we had to leave like a couple hours early with Uber and get there super early. And that was another whole story. But anyway, we had a blast though, man. But I appreciate you gentlemen. Y'all are true hardcore guys that love this industry. You do the best you can. And I love seeing you guys grow in your craft, in your knowledge. And I reached out to Jordan. I was like, Jordan, I said, you look just so natural in your conversation. I know looking back at my first videos, they are my worst videos. They were trash, garbage. And so to see where Jordan's at starting off right now, dude, I'm excited to see where he's going to be even in 6 months or a year or 2 years. Same thing with Brad, same thing for Ike. So I appreciate you guys. Y'all just been great friends to me. So
he doesn't care about me.
I really appreciate it.
do,
He
Ryan.
does. He talks
Ryan-
about you all the time. You
Just
don't even
kidding.
know.
I'm
Ryan's-
just kidding.
Ryan's my
Oh,
business
man.
partner with Mway. Trust me, we have some blood, sweat, tears, lots of laughs.
The fact that
and,
I've only known you for 9 months is astounding.
it's weird, but it's been cool. But you're
has
literally like
been.
a brother, man. So
Something
been a whole lot of
I
fun.
want to
9 months is a long time.
It is. But something I want to mention that I actually saw firsthand the first time Michael actually hired me sometime earlier in the year to go shoot
about 6 months ago.
home theater tour in Cape Coral. It was from Mike. And his home theater was just insane.
Yeah.
But I noticed that Michael is really good with people. More importantly, he knows how to loosen people up. Like he he can get the best out of a conversation. And what I noticed about doing CEDIA with him is that having someone else worry about the camera work, which, I mean, the camera work is important, you know, and making sure that everything looks good and people can see, that's important. But the connection that you make with these brands and have that conversation, because some of these people aren't comfortable on camera.
Correct.
And
we've
CEOs,
seen they're executives, they're owners of companies.
They know the tech specs, they have a script in their head, but you actually turn it into a conversation. You allow them to open up and make them feel comfortable. And I'm not dogging on anybody else here or anything like that, but it's something that like I've noticed a lot with the videos that we've done together at CEDIA. And that's something that I definitely like want to work on and make that other person comfortable, because then it does end up being a conversation instead of a sales pitch.
Yeah. And the cool thing is, part of where that comes from is I've made over like 580 videos on my channel over the past 4 years. And so it's repetition, and trust me, I guarantee you go back to some of those original conversations, they were trash, man. They were horrible. So I'm glad to see that I'm growing as a content creator, that I'm becoming more comfortable in my skin and who I am and how to interact with people. And we're going to see the same thing with you guys. So I'm super excited about your channels and what you bring to the industry. So definitely, you guys, I've got links to all their social media and their YouTube channels. Love for you to subscribe to them. Let's jump into some comments. So Ryan, appreciate you starring all those. We're going to go lightning round. So
the chat's back.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yay.
Bring them into the conversation. Let's have some fun. So Kicking It with D says, did you guys check out Theory Audio, the soundbar that they had?
I did not.
Nope.
I didn't get a chance to.
I didn't have time.
Yeah, same here. Appreciate the conversation.
That doesn't mean it's bad. It was just we didn't have time to go through it.
Trust me, I had my hands full with. I ended up doing 12 videos total because I ended up doing 2 extra ones. So John B says, what grabs your attention from Martin Logan, or was it same old, same old? Anybody get a chance to visit Martin Logan booth?
I did not.
I walked by and I talked to them for a little bit. What was in there was the masterpiece level in walls. So what you saw at M-Wave with the statements, it was just brought down.
Gotcha. So a little bit more affordable price point.
Yep. They were over there with Paradigm and Anthem, since Paradigm is the parent company.
Super cool. Super Collector Clark, appreciate the comment here. So do you guys hear sound signature difference by the brand of origin? In other words, European, American, Japanese? Interesting question.
Nope.
No.
As long as it's well made. Nope.
And obviously,
I've always been a big fan of European technology when it comes to home theater. So.
If you're introducing tube amps and stuff, I think you absolutely can. But with normal things like AVRs and pre-pros and traditional amplifiers and stuff.
What about like speakers? Is he maybe mentioning that? Or I guess it could apply it with anything.
I don't know. I mean, speakers maybe. Right. Depending on their specs and what
speakers
they are.
have a sound signature.
Yeah. I mean, you can do some things with EQ, but if you're talking amps and like AVRs and stuff, I think a well-made one is a well-made one. Made one.
And I think we saw that at M-Wave. So, oh man, Shiruluni. Sorry if I right. Mispronounced that. So hello from Albania, guys. I got the Sony XW7000 ES monitor audio in a 7 plus setup in DED. Oh, a dedicated home theater. And I want to upgrade the AVR. What do you recommend? Is the SR8015 quote old now? I love the SR8015. So that's from Marantz. Like Ryan said, it's rock solid. I never had any issues with that. It's a powerhouse AVR. It's got a great power supply in it. Has all your processing for Dolby Atmos, DTS, as well as Aural 3D. It's pretty sweet. I'll be honest with you. I would have no problem recommending that even today. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
Only downside is it doesn't have direct, which the new ones do. But I don't know if there's issues in Albania getting that new stuff when it comes out. This is ignorance. I'm not. I don't know.
Yeah. Right. Sure.
But I think the SR8015 is still solid.
That's
If it
phenomenal.
does everything you need, I wouldn't worry about it.
Does it have HDMI 2.1 or is it just 2.0?
I think it's 2.0. I
Okay.
believe.
So I mean, if you're a big gamer and are into like PC gaming, next gen consoles and stuff, that may be a deal breaker if you want like all the 4K 120 VRR stuff. But otherwise, unless it
As
doesn't
far as
have
home theater stuff, it rocks.
Yeah, exactly.
And I was going to ask earlier because Brad was mentioning about the projectors and VRR. So VRR is part of the HDMI 2.1 spec, isn't it? So do projectors just not have to meet that spec, even though they have 2.1, or is it just not a function?
I don't know that it's part of the spec.
Have the capability to.
Maybe the full 48 gigabit per second spec, because JVC I think is 40. Currently.
I think I can't really. I have to look at the footage, but I think the like whatever the $30,000 one is 48 gigabytes.
Yeah, that one is.
Yeah.
But I don't think like their standard, normal lines. I don't think they're 48.
Yeah, I that's a good question, and I don't know the whole logistics behind it. I know that projectors are really hard in doing with certain technologies. I don't know if it's a part of the requirement for HDMI 2.1. It might be more or less a feature set. But again, I could be wrong on that. Don't quote me on that.
The HDMI space is a disaster.
It is.
So,
It is. And HDMI 2.1, if many remember, is what was when it first came out very volatile in a lot of products that launched with it. It's still
volatile.
Yeah.
So yeah, it looks like everyone's
Okay, so
standing.
looks like there's a lot of comments saying that you don't need the VRR for 2.1.
Oh, okay.
So
Right.
yeah, so
I think it comes down, and maybe I'm wrong on this too. I can't remember. It's been a long few days, but so to do like it's all about like bandwidth limitations, right? So like if you're doing like high like if you're doing like 4K 120 or 444 or 422, I think most game consoles, when they output like 4K 120, they limit it to like either 422 or 420. Might be 420.
0.
I honestly can't remember. It's late, but so it comes down to like bandwidth limitations essentially. But yeah.
So I was wrong. The NZ7, NZ8, and NZ9, according to JVC's website, all support 48.
Oh.
I did not know that.
Okay.
Interesting. But Ryan, you said there is one projector that supports VRR?
Yeah, the Optima and Brad said Acer, but they could
There's
be
like
the
an
same
Acer, yeah.
platform.
Okay.
But they, I think, go down to 1080p when they do it. I think.
Okay. Yeah,
Don't quote me on that.
20.
Yeah, I can't imagine getting a $2,000 projector with 4K 120 and VRR
Right.
all
Yeah,
at the same time.
You never know.
You never
Somewhere
know.
Yeah.
Is it maybe? I don't know.
Somebody might shake up the industry and do it one day.
If anybody's watching that knows about one and it's part of a brand, just send me one. I'll check it out.
Great question there. So Brett says, do any of the new AVR or preamps look like a good price performance sweet spot for a 7.1.4 dedicated theater? Any good LCR in walls? Again, price performance.
Anthem
I think
has
my webcam died. Just a heads up.
Okay, you're good.
Oh yeah, he went blank. I think Anthem's new, was it their 1140 and their AVM 90? I think those are pretty good price points for what you get. I think those are going 15 channels. I don't remember the wattage, but they're doing some really cool like amp matrixing where you can use the unassigned or use the amps that you're not using and reassign them. So you might look at that.
Denon 3800H, I think, is going to be the price for performance king.
Yeah. It's kind of right in the middle, sweet spot.
Direct.
Lot of
I think it's
functionality.
going to have a lot in there. As far as LCRs, that's very dependent on what you view as price for performance. I'm going to throw Perlisson into that, right? With their new in-walls in their R series, I think they're just phenomenal.
Because the R series is, I think they were saying it's like 80% performance. If I'm getting the brand right, basically they're saying, look, we put a lot of performance in this.
They did.
and it's more affordable than the S series. If you got the money, definitely go for the S series, but that would offer a little bit, better price point, so you get more value out of that.
And they don't have any demo rooms like at all anywhere, right? But you can
not so much. I'm sure there's certain dealers that have them. You know what I'm saying? Like
some dealers have them, like I have them, but they haven't been out for very long.
But Perlisten themselves don't have a showroom.
No.
So I mean, they flew me up to their headquarters, and kind of think of a small warehouse, but the front of the warehouse is kind of like looks like a living room in a way, but it's still got 30-foot ceilings. It's not an enclosed room. So they don't even have like an area that you can, and that was a 2-channel setup, 2 subwoofers, and I think they had they had surrounds. No, I don't even know, man. Like Brad said, it's been a long week.
Yeah.
Long week. So great question there, Brett. LLL says, let me remove this real quick. Here we go. So LLL says, Cheap Audio Man was surprised to be impressed by the AudioQuest demo. Did any of you check that same demo out? Anybody get by the AudioQuest booth?
I did not. No.
Nope. Oh my God, Dater's back.
Oh no.
God, they are like
we got all kinds of So we got the spammers. All right. So none of us had a chance to meet that or be at that booth. Sock says, do I need to make a call to Ryan about what?
What was that about? Sock, there was something about, it was about I probably didn't mean to star that. That was about the special edition projector.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
And yeah, I can, you get in now, maybe.
Chadman PAC says, any idea when we will know pricing for the Perlisten in walls?
I already know it.
I know a dealer that you could probably contact. And so if you want to reach out
if you want
to hit Ryan up. His video is not working right now.
No.
But shoot Ryan an email.
As Sock said, the stream got a lot better looking when I disconnected. So
yeah, I gotcha. That's funny.
But I do know the pricing. So if you guys want pricing,
just
feel free to reach out to me. They're readily available. Well, the in-walls aren't, but when they do come out, they will be readily available, and Perlisten ships pretty fast.
Yeah. And Ryan's a dealer for Perlisten, so. Go back over to comments here. Kicking it with D says, will Perlisten have in-wall Atmos speakers? Great question there.
They will. Probably early 2023. They're not out yet.
So when they flew me up to Wisconsin to do the Perlisten Insider, that was one thing that Eric and Dan had a conversation with me, because I asked them about that, and he said, we have to work on getting our in-walls first. That's a really big focus right now.
Yep. Then
once we get those kind of settled in the market, then we can transition into really focusing on providing a really great Atmos in-wall speaker. So
they are coming.
Yeah. So in due time, my man. Great question there. So Subhendra says, any update in CEDIA about Direct Live on the new Denon AVR? So I didn't get a chance to go over to their booth. I really wanted to. But again, we just had pretty much video after video after video, and then helping each other out with their channels. I didn't get a chance to get back over there. So did anybody get a chance? Jordan, you mentioned you went by there.
Yeah, so I have a video on that one. If he's talking about the A1H, I don't think he mentioned Direct Live, and I didn't think to ask, but I might have his contact info. I might be able to reach out to him and provide some info, but I don't think he said in the video anything about Direct. But from what I understand, the new Denons are all supposed to have Direct, but don't quote me on that.
Now, something I do want to point out, and I mentioned this to Michael previously, is that be very careful about AVRs and pre-pros having Dirac, because every Dirac is not the same. There are
like different levels of
There are different levels and different implementations. So just because something has Dirac does not mean you are necessarily getting the full Dirac, including bass control.
Yeah.
So it's very important that you check and know which version you're getting, so you're not disappointed when you get the product that you've bought.
Gotcha.
It's very similar to
Odyssey.
Exactly. I was going to say the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Odyssey has different levels, and they have more. Have more room correction capabilities, more processing, more EQ capability, and so forth. So, good question there. So, John B, what's happening, man? Glad you're in the chat. So, I want to build a pre-pro 2.1 listening system as well. So I'm not sure that's
Oh,
a question.
yeah, I think he was. I don't. My brain isn't working. I don't know where that was going.
It's all good, man. Sleep deprivation at its finest. Rex says, "What is the best DIY alternative to Kaleidoscape?"
I would do Plex.
DIY. So
That's
yeah,
that's just a
That's
really
a
hard
loaded question.
Yeah.
That's a hard one.
I mean, there are so many
Kaleidoscape
different
is
platforms,
their
right?
own. They
I don't think
have
anything
their own.
anything like Kaleidoscape.
What's that?
I don't think there's
Yeah.
anything else out there like Kaleidoscape.
So Kaleidoscape is not available really anywhere outside of the US.
Right.
And I think ZHT is the big one in the EU, Asia, but I don't know if they have a movie store. So that's kind
Yeah.
of the gray area for me.
That's correct.
Most of the world uses ZHT from what I understand.
Yeah.
But as you guys said, Kaleidoscape is kind of its own
Right.
enigma.
There's really no competition for what Kaleidoscape does. And for those of you that aren't familiar with Kaleidoscape, I got a video on it, but in a nutshell, you can purchase movies, download them to the Kaleidoscape server. Then they have a player that you put in whatever rooms you want to be able to kind of interact with that server. And you're playing kind of one-to-one copies of the movies. The only other thing that might be an alternative, you basically have to take your own collection, rip those to a hard drive or a server, then have something like a ZHT or a ZDoo, and then that basically creates a menu using the metadata, and then you can play those files from that. So it's definitely, to me, it's two totally different platforms.
Yeah.
The end result is basically similar because you can have one-to-one copies that you've made of your physical data, or you can have, Kaleidoscape over here where you've downloaded it from their server to your server. So again, it's kind of two different things, and really two different audiences. Kaleidoscape is that all-in-one. I don't want to have to worry about figuring out software. I don't want to have to build a PC. I don't want to have to find out, what burner do I need to rip my thing. You don't have to worry about copyright issues and all that other stuff. It's an all-in-one platform. You set it up and it's super easy to use. Anybody can do it. It's as simple as using like Netflix or Hulu or anything else. You just get the high resolution video file and a high resolution audio transfer on that. So
now if you're in the EU, you can get the NAS system, I think, for ZHT.
Correct.
You can just drop the disk in and it'll automatically rip it to your library.
Correct.
So it just depends on what you want, right? And how much work you're willing to put in of what option becomes applicable for you.
Sure. Yeah, but as
That's
far
a
as
tough
like, is
question.
there a competitor, a direct competitor to Kaleidoscape? I don't think there's anything on the market
No.
that
I
does
don't
what
think
they
there
do.
is. No.
No. And like you said, like going through all of that, like if you're one that is technically inclined, like myself, like that's fine. Like I know how to rip discs and make MKVs and, lossless or not, bit for bit identical Blu-ray backups.
Sure.
But some people don't want to go through that. It does take, it's not that it's incredibly complicated anymore. You do need certain types of software to do things, but it still takes time. You have to have the disc.
I can't afford to time up my computer, man. I'm editing video.
Right. So you'd have to build a whole computer. But so I mean, like you said, it's two different markets, and I love my Plex server. I love my NVIDIA Shield most of the time. I sometimes hate it.
There's a love-hate relationship, I think, with NVIDIA Shield.
Absolutely,
NVIDIA,
100%. But again, two very different markets.
Yeah.
That's my take on it.
Yeah, it's almost like going the DIY mod VR route versus just getting the NV, right?
Correct.
Some people want to do all that coding and software and get the mod VR, and other people just pay for the NV.
Well, there are some serious
Get
limitations.
better updates.
There are some serious limitations with Mad VR Home Theater PC in comparison to the NV.
Yeah,
but
obviously, yes.
For sure. The other detractor, not with just Envy, but when you're dealing things with like Plex, do you want to be your own IT tech person?
Right. You have
Right.
issues,
We've
you're going to
all
be
been there.
you're going to be troubleshooting that yourself. Why is my server suddenly offline? I don't know.
I just want to watch something.
Right. I just want to. Why is it stuttering? I don't understand. I'm running off of an SSD. What's going on?
Getting video but no audio. And just to piggyback off of that, Rich, he's in the chat. He actually bought the ZHT Neo and he shipped it directly to me. Didn't even see it. Shipped it to me to review. So I'm actually reviewing that right now. So I can review both, Plex and ZHT. I will say the ZHT that I have right now, I think the software is a little bit buggy
Yeah.
so far, but when it works, I will say that I think it's a step up from Plex as far as audio and video quality, at least to me that I've seen. But yeah, I don't think there's anything really like Kaleidoscape that you can compare it to. But if you want to do something DIY, Plex, if you've got the money and if you're technically inclined, you can build a Plex computer to your heart's desire and you can spec it out. But like they were saying, not everybody wants to do that. Not everybody has the technical ability to do that stuff. And then you've got to troubleshoot it yourself. I enjoy doing that stuff. I enjoy building computers and ripping discs, but I'm probably in the minority there.
I'm going to throw this out there because I don't see a lot of people mention it. And my biggest knock against Kaleidoscape, other than the price, because it's more than my whole system costs. The lack of Dolby Vision support. That's it. Like I at that price point, give me the best. Like give not I don't want to say the best. Give me everything.
Give me all the options, right?
All the options. I want the options. Yep. I'm not going to get into like which is better or why.
Sure.
If it's available and just give me the option to view it. That's all I ask.
Gotcha. And then maybe there's just some licensing reasons.
Could be.
I don't know.
I think there's a technical reason. I read about it, but I can't remember, so I'm not gonna like sit here and quote it.
Yeah, sure.
And now Ryan's back, but he is a still frame.
I'm not. I'm trying.
Oh, he was there.
He's working on it.
Hold on.
At least you had an avatar. That was kind of cool.
I did. Wasn't a very good avatar.
Leadership Push says, do I need an AVR in order to add an amplifier? Yes and no. And the only reason why I say that is there's definitely different things. It depends on how many speakers you're wanting to run. So we ran into SVS and they have some products there that you can add an amplifier to theirs. And it's not necessarily an AVR. It's more like a streamer. And it has got its built-in DAC and so forth. But if you're talking about a home theater system, maybe you're running 5 bed layer speakers, a subwoofer, a couple of Atmos speakers. Yes, you're going to need an AVR, so audio video receiver, or like a dedicated processor. So the dedicated processor, in a nutshell, is an AVR minus the amplification. It does all the video processing, all of the codecs and everything, all of your upmixing and so forth, all the inputs and the video switching, just doesn't have an amplifier. So just make sure if you buy an AVR and you're wanting to have the ability to add an amplifier, just make sure it has pre-outs for all of the channels that you think you're going to need and want to amplify. Because some AVRs only have a subwoofer pre-out. So that means you're not going to be able to add an amplifier to your speakers. Some of them only have maybe a pre-out for a left and right. So just take a look at the back of the AVR. It'll show you whether it says pre-outs, and just make sure you're not looking at the multi-channel inputs, because that would be something totally different. Any other thoughts, guys?
Yeah, I was just going to say, it's a lot of it too comes down to price. So if you're going to go even the preamp, if you buy a receiver that has a preamp on it and you want to use external amps, that's more money. So a lot of people invest in receivers because they don't want to spend more money. Yeah, you're not going to get the same power requirements. You may run into some heat issues depending on where you have it. But I would say if you're just looking for cost effective, then a receiver. But I would say get a receiver that has pre-out so that you can future proof yourself. That way, later down the line, if you're like, you know what, I want to dip into this, separate thing, you can still do that. And then later on, if you decide you just want to go completely, an amplifier separates, then you can do that as well.
Yeah, I kind of read that leadership. I'm looking at that question and it's almost like you're saying, can I have an amplifier without an AVR? And the answer for the most part is no. You're going to need that AVR. That's the hub of everything. And then the amplifier is like an add-on to the AVR to give you more power per speaker, because we know with AVRs, the more speakers you connect to it, the less wattage. Most AVRs are rated at 2 channels driven. So they're rating that at 140 watts with 2 speakers. So once you connect 5 speakers or 7 speakers or 9 or 11, that number goes down sometimes like 50 watts or 55 or 60 watts. And so that's where you'd want to add that amplifier if you need the more, the higher wattage. Last couple questions here. Chadman PA, once again, directional versus something like per listen in a 2,500 cubic foot rectangular room, preferences, advantages, disadvantages.
Is Directional a speaker company?
I'm not sure.
Is he talking about like does per listen do they use waveguide or no?
They use what they call they call it beamforming, and they
Okay.
use definitely like kind of their own design. So they've got like two little mid ranges above and below, tweeter kind of arranged around that. Ryan probably can speak
Per listen
more
is
to
very
that
much
kind
a
of
directional
design.
speaker. They limit the dispersion in a way to take the room out of the equation, very much like Martin Logan does with their electrostatics. So I don't know what you mean by directional. I'm going to assume that that's a speaker company, and if it is,
I'm not familiar with it.
even though I don't know them, I'm going to take per listen every day, all day, regardless. I brought in per listen as a dealer for a reason. I only deal with brands that I would put in my room and they're in my living room right now to showcase and in my comparison area. So it's no question per listen. And if you're interested, let me know. They're phenomenal.
They're pretty solid. Absolutely. And like I said, third parties have measured them. They measure extremely well.
Yep.
Those guys, Dan and Eric, they really, really know what they're doing. True engineers.
Michael, did you find out if they're going to be at CES for listen?
Honestly, I don't know. Somebody asked me if I was going to CES, but I don't remember what brand had asked.
What year is it? Right now. That's how we all feel, right?
We're trying to get past this.
Yeah.
Magic Lakes, great question here. So, do you guys prefer to assign heights or tops with your height ceiling speakers? Is there a difference or preferences while watching an Atmos track?
Assign heights or tops with your heights.
You really don't want to do heights unless you have tall ceilings, because if you have heights, which are supposed to be on the front or rear walls, or even sides, if you don't have high ceilings, they're not going to get the needed separation from your bed layer, and they're not going to work correctly. So you really need probably
10 foot,
10 feet
12?
at the minimum, but I'm really going to say over that to really make them work. In most situations, I would highly recommend tops. Heights just...
Now, by tops, you're talking about in ceiling firing straight
In
down,
ceiling,
not
I think
what they
so,
call topper speakers,
but I think
which sit on
heights,
top of your speakers.
I think heights have more content for them, though. So if you don't have like access to DTS:X Pro or I think DTS, I don't know what Dolby does. Dolby Surround does with their upmixing. Sometimes you can run into issues with certain media where they want to send things to heights and not tops. There's just a bunch of stuff in object-based audio that doesn't behave sometimes how you want it to. So in that regard, I think sometimes heights can be better, but I would say, at least in most deployments, if you're building a theater, I would do it with tops, personally.
I enjoy having, I would love to, eventually I would like to move away from in-ceiling speakers and kind of go to on-ceiling speakers.
Oh, so you can hit your head on them like you do in my theater.
No, I've got 10-foot ceilings, bro. I don't have them short
still
ceilings.
need to figure out
Short
some
ceiling.
mounts for
So
that.
totally different thing. Talking about short, we're walking through CEDIA. Ike's 6'4". I'm 5'11". Brad is shorter. He's shorter.
It's like 5'9", 5'10".
So we're walking along, and I'm walking pretty fast, and Ike goes, "You guys walk fast for short legs." What the heck does that mean, Ike? Thanks,
Ike, they're
bro.
throwing you under the bus. First your car, now the comments. What is this?
Hey,
mean,
we had lots.
Let the record.
Don't worry.
We had lots
Hey, right.
of laughs.
We have a chair.
Yeah,
we have
we
a
do.
cherry to pop soon, so don't
Oh
worry.
boy.
Oh mercy.
Oh boy.
Oh,
Let the
Brad's
record
gone
show
now.
that all of the shots fired at Ike have come from Michael and not me. So
Hey, I only shoot fire, whatever you want to call that. People that I care about, man. Ike, I appreciate you, bro.
I call it preemptive strike because he knows what's coming.
We had lots of fun. All right, last two questions here. We're gonna wrap up the show. Joel says, guys, random question: play with the sub phase or keep it on 0 and have my Yamaha Vintage A6A do it, or those are two separate things, or are those two separate things? I
So
guess
you can reverse phasing typically in the AVR pre-pro and on the sub. I don't know that it makes a difference which way you do it, but you absolutely want to do it. You want to make sure that your subs are in phase. Out of phase, you're going to have some massive problems.
Yeah.
So it's let's see. So if it depends on, like, I guess if he's got one sub or two subs. If it's just one, would it just remain at 0? Or is there are there times that you would need to go to 180? And I guess my thought is the easiest thing to do is measure it. Get a calibrated mic, use REW, run it at 0, run it at 90, run it at 180, and see what measures the best. And if you got multiple subwoofers, that's a little bit more complicated. I'm going to recommend this guy right here. Brad has Brad has an absolute incredible series on the mini DSP. Brad, is it 4-part series, 5-part series?
I think it's 5 parts. Yeah. Okay. If you have a mini DSP. Yeah.
So the cool thing, Brad has made that video series super simple. And like we saw even at the show, people came up to him and said, Brad, thank you for your mini DSP walkthrough. You made it really easy. You broke it up into sections, and it definitely helped them out greatly. I'm a big fan of mini DSP. I'm not super great at it. Brad's much more of an expert on it than I am. And probably all you guys. I'm new to it, and I understand it, but I'm not real great at it. Definitely, there's a learning curve there.
Yeah, I don't know if I call myself an expert, an enthusiast, maybe, but
much better than me, man.
Yeah, just to kind of add to what you're saying there. So if you're talking about sub phase and the relationship between two subs that you have, that's completely different than the phase relationship between your subs and your main speakers. So if you're trying to get your subs calibrated and playing nicely together without the use of a mini DSP, you may need to adjust the phase on them depending on their location, if they're different brands, if they're different types. Most people don't recommend, mixing sealed and ported subs. It is doable, but it makes it a little harder to integrate properly. And then you would maybe, use your receiver's phase or time alignment feature, which is essentially the distance for the subwoofer setting is like a time alignment feature to get those all playing together. You always want to like separate it. You don't want to try to mess with the phase and on the subs, like trying to get those two together, playing nicely together, while you're also adjusting the time alignment or phase of the relationship between the mains and the sub, because you're just asking for issues and you're not going to be able to go, okay, was the adjustment that I made that is now completely ruining my response because I made this adjustment or that adjustment in my receiver. You just want to keep it separate.
Super cool stuff. Any other thoughts? Last question here. We're going to wrap up the show. Eric Albert says, Ryan, do you think Denon Dirac will offer multiple pricing for their various flavors of Dirac, or will it just get you a single level of Dirac?
I have no idea.
Right.
I don't think there's enough information out, but my guess would be there's only going to be one version.
Yeah.
I think I saw some people talking that there were 2 in chat, but I don't know.
So I'm assuming you're asking, let's say you buy a Denon AVR or processor, are you going to be able to choose which version of Dirac?
Oh,
I'm thinking they're probably, maybe, let's say the highest end processor or the highest end AVR might have the best level, and you get to, when you buy that, that's just my guess, you're going to be able to buy that one. Maybe with their kind of entry level ones, maybe it automatically comes with a lower version of Dirac, and you'll have the option of purchasing that. So that's just a total guess. We don't have enough information to really know. So any other thoughts?
I'd be really surprised if they offer multiple tiers on each receiver.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be similar to Odyssey, where it's like what you buy is like, this is only compatible with this version of Dirac. If you want the better stuff, we want you to buy our like higher end, more premium receiver.
That would be my thought as well. Well, super cool, guys. Well, we are right up at 2 hours on the show. I know we covered a whole lot. We had an incredible time at CEDIA 2022. All of our first time being there. Had a great opportunity to hang out with you, get to know you, not only as content creators, but as just gentlemen and friends. So I appreciate your friendship. Guys, one last reminder, if you have not registered and I still want to say applied. It's not applied. If you haven't entered,
sign up.
Signed up.
Make
for
sure
each
you
one of the
submit your
giveaways.
resume.
Exactly. There's really only one requirement: be a subscriber to the Youthman YouTube channel, and then head over to youthmanreviews.com/road to 100K. There's $33,000 in giveaways, bunch of different brands I partner with. I think there's like 24, 25 brands. So lots of cool stuff over there. On behalf of myself, Ryan at the top left with the big eyeball avatar.
No, it's a worm. It's Dune.
Worm.
Come on.
It still looks like
It's
an
not
eyeball, man.
Sauron. Let's go.
But it looks like an
It looks
eyeball.
like an eyeball. I can see that.
Top right. Actually, how do I get back to? Let me do this. There we go. So you can actually see Ike, ZHT Tech. He's got a new channel. Home Theater Gamer. Brad, appreciate you being on the show. And Jordan, Haterade Cowboy Cinema. You guys are incredible. Appreciate your friendship. I've got links to all their channels down in the description. So definitely show them some love, and hope you guys have an incredible week. We're probably literally 2-3 days away from hitting 100K. So I'm super pumped about that and extremely grateful to every one of you that are watching, and hope you have a blessed week, and we'll catch you in the next video.